Chapter 1434. 9 Demon Emperors, could it be the same one? Along the way, Du Xiaofu was still in deep thought. The 9 demon monarch from the devil cult seemed to have appeared in the sealed ancient land in Shang province before. He wondered if the two were the same person. In the golden-winged Great Peng clan, Du Xiaofu first met with the Great Elder and the others after returning to the clan. He told them about the devil religion's attack. The devil religion is restless, it seems like they are plotting something. Jialo Changtian frowned. Some information about the devil religion was recorded in the golden-winged Great Peng clan. One of them is very strong, it might be a demon emperor. The Great Elder said. He had fought with the devil religion's expert before and knew how strong he was. That person seems to be called the 9 demon emperors. Du Xiaofu said. He had heard the identity of the devil religion's expert from the enlightening old man. It really is a demon emperor. I didn't expect the devil religion's demon emperor to have revived. Hearing this, the second elder's expression changed. His eyes overflowed with golden light as he said, if I had known earlier, I would have stopped that demon emperor even if I had to pay a price. The revival of a demon emperor is no small matter. I hope not all the demon emperors have revived, otherwise, the great calamity will begin. The third elder frowned, his eyes narrowing. Foster father, elders, how strong are those demon emperors? Du Xiaofu asked Jialo Changtian and the other elders. Jialo Changtian smiled wryly, he turned to Du Xiaofu and said, rumor has it that during the great tribulation of heaven and earth, the great tribulation of heaven and earth shook violently. Countless lives were plunged into chaos, and the great tribulation of heaven and earth fell. But in the end, a mysterious supreme expert and the dragon god arrived and stopped the great tribulation of heaven and earth. The supreme expert and the dragon god sealed the entire battlefield into the Kyushu Seal ancient land, and left behind 9 divine lightning cauldrons to suppress the evil spirits on the battlefield, including a demon god. After a brief pause, Jialo Changtian continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. The devil emperor was the strongest existence by the archdevil god's side. It is said that the archdevil god had 9 devil emperors by his side, and all of them possessed monstrous strength. Many of the strongest experts in this world had fallen in their hands. It is said that the archdevil god was sealed, and the 9 devil emperors relied on the archdevil god to seal themselves in this world. It seems that those demon emperors have already recovered. Hopefully, not all the demon emperors have recovered. The 9 demon emperors should be the weakest one among the 9 demon emperors. How strong is the devil religion? Du Xiaofu's heart trembled. If the 9 demon emperors were the weakest among the 9 demon emperors, then how strong were the other 8 demon emperors? There was also the so-called archdevil god. Even the owner of the purple lightning profound cauldron and the dragon god failed to kill him, only sealing him. How strong was he? However, those experts of the devil religion wouldn't dare to come out casually. There are still many experts in this world. If the devil religion didn't fear them, they wouldn't have remained dormant for so long. Jialo Changtian looked at Du Xiaofu with a solemn expression, thinking that he was worried about the devil religion's experts. He continued, this time, the devil religion actually sent a devil emperor here. I'm afraid that my golden-winged Great Peng bird clan is in the vicinity. You must have something that they desperately need. The devil religion needs spiritual lightning. They seem to be searching for spiritual lightning. Du Xiaofu didn't conceal anything. The reason why the enlightening old man and the others attacked his master was because of the 3,000 thunder lightning. As for the devil religion's experts, Du Xiaofu still remembered that when the 9 demon emperors appeared in Shang province's sealed ancient lands, an expert called Xiao also appeared and scared the 9 demon emperors away. From this, it could be seen that the devil religion's experts couldn't just appear in this world casually. Spiritual lightning, hearing that, Jialo Changtian, the first elder, and the others all started to ponder. Du Xiaofu then left. Jialo Changtian reminded him that tomorrow was the day of the golden-winged Great Peng bird clan's young patriarch ceremony, so he couldn't be late. After returning to his courtyard, Du Xiaofu left a few words with the Phantom Chariot, Zither Devil, and Phantom Tiger King, then went into his room. Now that the purple lightning profound cauldron was exposed, Du Xiaofu didn't place any more seals in the room and directly brought the enlightening old man into the ancient desolate space. Inside the desolate country, the space rippled and the enlightening old man was thrown to the ground. His yellow robe was tattered and his eyes were filled with fear. Chi, several runes flew out from Du Xiaofu's fingertips and landed on the enlightening old man's body, releasing the seal on his voice. He didn't hide the coldness in his eyes as he asked, "Speak, where is my master now?" With the 3,000 thunder lightning soul seed in his mind, Du Xiaofu knew that his master was at least still alive. "Kiki, brat, there's a time when you have to beg me." The enlightening old man's fear turned into anger. He laughed sinisterly and said, "Let me go, or your master Xiahou Fenglei will die." "It's fine if you don't tell me. Try my soul-searching technique." Du Xiaofu said coldly. He did not say anything else. Suddenly, a strange seal was formed in his hand. Light surged on his fingers as they bent into a claw. Then, they landed on the top of the enlightening old man's head with a resplendent symbol. A vast yuan spirit pressure descended. The enlightening old man wanted to struggle, but he couldn't move at all because of the seal. As the claw landed, the enlightening old man's eyes began to turn white and his body began to twitch. In just a few moments, the enlightening old man began to scream. His pupils dilated and white foam flowed out of his mouth as if he was suffering the worst torture. Huff, by the time Du Xiaofu withdrew the claw, almost an hour had passed. At this moment, the enlightening old man was on the verge of death. Even his 7 orifices began to bleed. Du Xiaofu had just used the soul-searching technique from the Heavenly Spirit record. It was very similar to the soul-searching technique from the Hehuan school, but it was much more profound and powerful than the Hehuan school's soul-searching technique. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation, especially the strength of his yuan spirit, it wasn't difficult for him to search for the enlightening old man's yuan spirit. From the soul-searching technique, Du Xiaofu learned that his master, the weapon sovereign, seemed to be imprisoned in a branch of the devil religion. The enlightening old man had only recently broken through to the martial domain. He was only a deputy envoy and not an envoy, so he didn't know the whereabouts of the branch. Du Xiaofu learned that the devil religion had been searching for spiritual thunder and seemed to have found a lot. However, the enlightening old man didn't know the ultimate purpose of the devil religion's search for devil thunder. Outside the golden-winged rocks, the 9th demon emperor who had appeared in the sealed ancient land of Shangzhou was a demon emperor. In the devil religion, there were a total of 108 demon envoys and even more deputy demon envoys. Among the 108 demon envoys, the 5 great demon envoys were the earth demon envoys, the fire demon envoys, the ice demon envoys, the wind demon envoys, and the thunder demon envoys. It was said that their strength was only below the demon emperor. There were 9 demon emperors in the devil religion. All of them were still in seclusion to recover. Only the 9th demon emperor had recovered the fastest. In the sealed ancient land of Shangzhou, those evil spirits had used the devil gate. Their purpose was to lure all the living creatures in Shangzhou into the devil gate and provide the blood qi for the demon emperor to recover. It was the same in the other provinces. The devil gate was open to provide the blood qi for the demon emperor to recover. Du Xiaofu learned this information from the enlightening old man's yuan spirit by using the soul-searching technique. Du Xiaofu was shocked. The devil religion was so huge and powerful. Phew, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and his expression turned serious. After a while, he calmed down the shock in his heart. Although the soul-searching technique didn't get much useful information about the devil religion from the enlightening old man, Du Xiaofu had other gains. In the enlightening old man's yuan spirit, Du Xiaofu found 2 divine abilities of the enlightening old man. One of them was the lightning divine ability. However, for Du Xiaofu, who had the lightning martial vein and several types of spirit thunder soul seeds, it wasn't very useful. However, he could still study it and gain some benefits from the lightning divine ability. The Yin lightning old man's other disguised divine ability was called the disguised divine art. Du Xiaofu was very tempted. Du Xiaofu still remembered that the Yin lightning old man had disguised himself as his fifth martial uncle, GMO. Although the disguised divine art wasn't a peerless divine ability, it was often very useful in some special situations. Without getting much information about the devil religion, Du Xiaofu broke the seal on the Yin lightning old man's Qianquan bag and searched it. He also got a few good Dao artifacts and some elixirs. As for the other items, they were also quite valuable. Then, he threw the Yin lightning old man aside. Du Xiaofu didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he was interested in the disguised divine art and began to study it. If he could master the disguised divine art, it would definitely be useful in the future. The next day, the entire golden-winged rock clan was very lively and jubilant. Under the guidance of a golden-winged great peng bird clan's elder, Du Xiaofu walked through many ceremonial procedures. In the end, he sat upright on the left side of the main hall, below his adoptive father, Jialo Changtian. On the right side were the great elder, second elder, third elder, and other experts. Young clan leader. Jialo Jueyu and the other leaders of the younger generation of the golden-winged rock clan bowed respectfully. This time, they had been tempered by the divine lightning in the divine lightning cauldron and strengthened their bloodlines. Some had even broken through directly. They were the most aware and excited about the benefits they had received. The young clan leader of the golden-winged rock clan, the hall master, is too awesome. Illusion Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and the others looked at each other and smiled. The hall master they followed was the young clan leader of the golden-winged rock clan. This time, they had obtained an ancient inheritance, which was a great opportunity. Then, the golden-winged rock clan's members also received the divine lightning to strengthen their bloodlines. It was like adding wings to a tiger. Chapter 1435. Back then, each and every one of them had been threatened to submit. At this moment, even if someone were to chase them away, they would definitely not leave. We've followed the right palace lord this time. Fantasy Tiger King chuckled. He had felt sullen back then, but now, he was rejoicing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to obtain so many opportunities. You naturally have your reasons for wanting to go back to the central continent to deal with your own matters. However, now that the devil religion has its eyes on you, it'll be easier for them to make their move in the central continent. Jiuyu, Kai Ling, and the others have been tempered by the divine thunder, and some time ago, they were baptized by the supreme thunderstorm. They need some time to cultivate in seclusion. Therefore, the clan has decided that when you go back, the fifth elder and the fourth elder will accompany you to the central continent. Jialo Changtian spoke to Du Xiaofu in the ancient golden courtyard at dusk. Won't that be too much trouble for the fourth elder and the fifth elder? Du Xiaofu was a little surprised. What kind of existence were the fourth elder and the fifth elder? Following him to the central continent was unusual. This is what the fourth elder and the fifth elder requested. Besides, you're now the young clan leader of the golden-winged rock clan. In the future, the clan will rely on you to lead. Jueyu, and the others will also need your guidance. Jialo Changtian smiled and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Looking up at the setting sun, he said, "We're old. In the future, the clan will rely on the younger generation. Although you're only my adopted son, in my heart, you're now my flesh and blood. Remember, if you encounter any difficulties in the central continent that the fourth elder and the fifth elder can't solve, immediately inform the clan. Behind you is the entire golden-winged rock clan." Father, Du Xiaofu wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. His heart felt warm. There's no need to say more. Go back and prepare. You'll go back tomorrow. I don't know when you'll be able to come back. Your path is very wide. The clan won't give you any restrictions, but will always stand firmly behind you. Jialo Changtian looked at Du Xiaofu and continued, you seem to have a clan in the Central Plains. There are several treasure vaults in your clan. They contain Dao artifacts, magic artifacts, martial skills, and so on. Some of these treasures are of little use to my clan, but they are precious treasures to the human race. Go look for them. If you find something suitable, take it with you. All right. Du Xiaofu nodded. He didn't stand on ceremony, and there was no need to stand on ceremony. After a short moment, Du Xiaofu left. He first went to a few treasure vaults of the clan, and he searched without restraint before returning to the courtyard at the waist of the mountain with satisfaction. After returning to the mountainside courtyard, Du Xiaofu entered the desolate ancient space again. No one knew what he was doing, but he only came out the next morning. In the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu had already stayed there for dozens of hours. Early in the morning, outside the golden-winged Great Ping clan, a group of dozens of figures flew out. Their auras were restrained, and the void was distorted. The group that came out of the golden-winged Great Ping clan was Du Xiaofu, 4th Elder Jialo Yuantu, 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu, Guqin Devil, Gui Che, and the others. Hall Master, we'll go back first. After reporting our safety, we'll go to the Central Plains to look for you. Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Ing Ying, and the others said. They had been out for a long time, and needed to return to their clans to report their safety. In their respective clans, they were the best of the best among their peers. Without any news, their clans must be very worried. This is a voice transmission jade slip. If there's anything, you can crush it to send a message. Maybe I'll have something to tell you. Du Xiaofu sent dozens of flowing lights to Gui Che, Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Ing Ying, Divine Ape King, and the others. They were jade slips overflowing with mysterious runes and flowing lights. Du Xiaofu had refined them last night in the desolate ancient space according to the records in the Heavenly Spirit record. Du Xiaofu naturally had no reason to stop Gui Che, Fantasy Tiger King, and the others from going back to report their safety. After all, they were not slow. But this time, they were forced to return to the Central Plains. There was still the Divine Light Court to deal with, so Du Xiaofu left Gui Che and the others a voice transmission jade slip in case they needed it. Then Du Xiaofu said to Divine Ape King, Fire Dragon King, and the others, find the Purple Dragon Emperor as soon as possible and tell her that I've escaped and returned to the Central Plains. Yes. Divine Ape King, Fire Dragon King, and the others nodded in response. Take care, Hall Master. Gui Che said, his blood-red eyes rippling. Then he left with Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Ing Ying, and Divine Ape King. One figure after another left. 4th Elder Jialo Yuan and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu were somewhat moved. Phew. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Given enough time, the Phantom Chariot, the Phantom Tiger King, the Savage Bear King, Little Ing, and the others would be enough to change the current situation in the Beast region. He'd also have a powerful ally by his side. He was one step closer to his goal of creating a powerful clan. Are we returning to the Central Plains now? Shengguan Qi Xian, the Zither demon, looked at Du Xiaofu. His robes were whiter than snow. Beneath his thick eyebrows, his eyes glistened like spring water. His temperament was as gentle as the wind, but there was an invisible demonic aura about him. Although he hadn't obtained any ancient inheritance this time, the value of the Heavenly Spirit record wasn't much lower than an ancient inheritance. On the other hand, the Zither demon's beast mount had also obtained an ancient inheritance and had improved significantly. Yes, let's return to the Central Plains. Du Xiaofu nodded. His eyes glowed faintly with golden light. After so many years, he was finally going to return. The Central Plains was his roots. He had to return sooner or later. It was time to settle the blood debt of the divine light court. Hearing this, the zither demon straightened his back. The corners of his rosy lips curled up. He murmured, "The central plains should be lively soon." The zither demon had heard how Du Xiaofu had left the central plains. Now that Du Xiaofu was returning, not to mention the fact that he was the young master of the golden-winged Great Ping clan, or that he had gathered the Ghost Chariot, Fantasy Tiger King, and a large number of other beast kings by his side. Just his strength alone was enough to make a powerful return. Our clan has never left the central plains. We're too lazy to interact with other races. Therefore, our ancestors were too lazy to construct a spatial wormhole. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, said to Du Xiaofu, "The nearest place with a spatial wormhole to the central plains is the Tianhuang continent. We have to go there first, then head to the central plains. If we travel directly to the central plains, we'll probably waste a lot of time. Thank you for your hard work, elders." Du Xiaofu knew that the beast region and the central plains were very far apart. They still had to cross at least the Shan region. Just how vast was a continent? Even if one reached the domain realm, it would still take a lot of time to travel through space. Moreover, there was the possibility of encountering spatial turbulence within a spatial wormhole. It was even easier to encounter spatial turbulence while traveling through space. It was also extremely dangerous and exhausting. It's not hard at all. Us two old fellows have come out to roam the world. It's also a pleasure. The fifth elder smiled. He waved his hand and an ancient carriage appeared in the air. It was engraved with talismans and mysterious patterns. It looked like a living creature. The carriage was several meters tall. Flames surged around it, as if there was a fiery bird flapping its wings and distorting the surrounding space. This is the Galefire carriage. It's rumored to be an ancient artifact. It's not slow. It should take at most 2 days to reach the Tianhuang continent. Fifth elder Jialo Yuantu gestured for Du Xiaofu to get on the carriage. Thank you, fifth elder. Du Xiaofu sized up the Galefire carriage. It was filled with an ancient aura. It was definitely a precious treasure. As for the fifth elder, although he had competed with him before, Du Xiaofu didn't take it to heart. The fifth elder didn't deliberately target him back then. After interacting with him later, Du Xiaofu felt that the fifth elder was straightforward. He had a good impression of him. This time, the fourth elder and the fifth elder also took the initiative to escort him to the central plains. They jumped onto the Galefire carriage. It was quite spacious inside. After Du Xiaofu entered, the fourth elder and the fifth elder entered. Only then did the zither demon and his mount enter. Then, the flames surged and the Galefire carriage's aura fluctuated. It soared into the sky and disappeared immediately. Du Xiaofu didn't stay idle in the Galefire carriage. After informing the fourth elder and the fifth elder, he entered the ancient desolate space. In the ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu glanced at the Yin Thunder old man who was lying on the ground and had regained some consciousness. Then, he fiddled with a lot of refining materials from his Qinkuan bag. At this moment, Du Xiaofu planned to refine a puppet from a living person according to the records in the Heavenly Spirit record. Back then, his master, the Venerable Weapon, had helped him refine the cloud puppet. Du Xiaofu compared the refining methods of the two and found that they seemed to be the same. However, after careful comparison, Du Xiaofu found that the refining method of his master, the Venerable Weapon, seemed to be somewhat derived from the refining method of the Heavenly Spirit record. There were many types of puppets. Among them, there were 2 types of puppets that were refined from human and demonic beast corpses. Puppets refined from human and demonic beast corpses were called zombie puppets. Puppets refined from human and demonic beast corpses were called human puppets or beast puppets. Using a living person to refine a puppet was naturally much better than a zombie puppet. According to the records in the Heavenly Spirit record, using a corpse to refine a puppet would greatly reduce the strength of the puppet. After the corpse of a martial domain initial domain cultivator was refined into a puppet, it would at most have the strength of a peak martial venerable. This was the best result. Generally speaking, it was good enough to have the strength of a nirvana martial venerable. However, using a living person to refine a puppet, once the refining was successful, the strength of the puppet would be slightly higher than when the person was alive. In addition, the puppet was difficult to deal with and terrifying. However, using a living person to refine a puppet was also the most cruel. It was enough to make people's hair stand on end. If it wasn't a vicious person or the master of a blood feud, a talisman master with a weak mind wouldn't be able to successfully refine it. At the same time, the difficulty of refining a puppet from a living person was not ordinary. It was many times more difficult than refining a corpse puppet. A living person had a primordial spirit and his own will. When refining, he would resist. At this time, if the talisman master didn't have enough strength, he wouldn't be able to refine it. Chapter 1436. Moreover, when a person was in a desperate situation, knowing that he would be made into a puppet in such a cruel and painful way, he would choose to commit suicide without hesitation. He would not allow himself to be made into a puppet. At this time, a spiritual talisman master would need to have absolute strength to control it, so that the person being refined would not even have the strength to commit suicide. Having already used the spiritual searching technique, Du Xiaofu did not need the Yin Thunder Old Man to say anything. Du Xiaofu did not want to waste the martial domain realm Yin Thunder Old Man. It just so happened that he could be used to refine a puppet. If he could succeed, having a martial domain realm puppet by his side would definitely be a great support. However, as it was his first time refining this kind of puppet, Du Xiaofu was also somewhat nervous. After carefully recalling the steps of refining a puppet in the Heavenly Spirit record, Du Xiaofu condensed a seal with his hands, condensing a spiritual stove talisman cauldron in front of him. A blazing aura immediately filled the air, and flames whistled. Du Xiaofu also sat cross-legged, and began to throw the refining materials he had just taken out into the spiritual stove talisman cauldron to refine them. Refining a human puppet also required a lot of materials to assist in refining weapons. A martial artist's body was already very powerful, but this was not enough. A puppet required an extremely strong body. Therefore, it required a lot of refining materials to assist in the refinement. As the young master of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, he had also plundered a lot of benefits along the way. Although these refining materials were not ordinary plants, for the current Du Xiaofu, they were naturally nothing. The flames in the spiritual stove talisman cauldron rose, and Du Xiaofu began to slowly refine the refining materials he had just thrown in. This kind of refining materials did not require too much skill, and only required some consumption. For Du Xiaofu, it was not difficult at all. Originally, Du Xiaofu was still a little worried about whether he could condense a spiritual stove talisman cauldron to refine a puppet. Ever since the last nirvana of the Grand Sovereign, Du Xiaofu discovered that his spirit watchtower no longer had a meridian soul. After the meridian soul and primordial spirit merged into one, his primordial spirit became the body of a red-boned horse monkey. What surprised Du Xiaofu the most was that as the meridian soul and the primordial spirit merged into one, the distinction between a talisman master and a martial artist also merged into one. This made Du Xiaofu unable to distinguish whether he was a martial artist or a spiritual talisman master after the nirvana of the Great Sovereign. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu confirmed that he was still able to condense the array flags, spiritual stoves and symbol cauldrons, and launch his soul attacks, before finally feeling relieved. Although the meridian soul and the primordial spirit had merged into one, Du Xiaofu still had the means of martial arts and talisman masters. What's more, it was different from what it used to be. It was just that after the meridian soul and the primordial spirit merged into one, the two became one, completely natural. It was already impossible to distinguish between a martial artist and a spiritual talisman master. Du Xiaofu didn't know the reason for this change. He asked his foster father, Jialo Changtian, but he was also puzzled. He suspected that it had something to do with the fusion of the meridian soul and the primordial spirit. However, this didn't have any effect on him, so Du Xiaofu didn't feel too conflicted about it. After refining the materials, Du Xiaofu spent 3 or 4 days in the ancient desolate space before finally refining all of the materials needed to refine the puppet. Walala, inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, there were balls of pure liquid boiling like magma. Multicolored light filled the air, and energy fluctuated, releasing resplendent rays of light. The materials needed to refine the martial domain puppet were all extraordinary. With Du Xiaofu's current strength, it would take a lot of time to refine it. Huff, after withdrawing his hand seal, Du Xiaofu spat out a mouthful of turbid air. His gaze immediately turned to the Yin Thunder old man, who had been restless all this time. He didn't hide his coldness, and a sneer appeared on his face. "What do you want to do?" The Yin Thunder old man was terrified for no reason. In these dozens of hours, he had watched Du Xiaofu refine the materials. At this moment, his eyes were filled with undisguised coldness as he looked at him with a sneer. It was as if he had some kind of premonition in his heart. His primordial spirit was excited and trembled. "I'll let you die, and I'll let you live." Du Xiaofu spoke without any mercy. He waved his hand and an invisible claw distorted the void, wrapping the Yin Thunder old man's restriction and throwing him into the spiritual stove talisman cauldron. Not good. In the end, the Yin Thunder old man seemed to have finally confirmed something. Absolute fear climbed out from the depths of his soul. His pupils contracted, and he trembled in fear. Walala, as the Yin Thunder old man's body entered the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, his yellow robes immediately turned to ashes. Under the scorching flames, his skin immediately began to sizzle. Like barbecued meat, the surface of his body shriveled up, and his skin became charred and cracked. Blood constantly flowed out, and in the end, it turned into white mist under the high temperature. Arg! A miserable howl rang out from the Yin Thunder old man's mouth. His body was covered in blood, and his flesh was mangled. Strands of blood seeped out from his shriveled body, turning into wisps of smoke in the flames of the spiritual stove talisman cauldron. However, the nerves and cells in the Yin Thunder old man's body had not been destroyed. In the flames, his muscles constantly twitched, and even his heart could be seen beating faintly. All of this was cruel and bloody, but Du Xiaofu did not find it cruel or bloody at all. If he had ended up in the hands of the devil religion, his fate would have been reversed immediately. In this world, the strong were respected. Everything depended on strength, and the strong preyed on the weak. Whoever had the hardest fist would be able to survive. Du Xiaofu had always understood the principle of the strong being respected. Moreover, this Yin Thunder old man was a member of the devil religion, and had a blood feud with the 7-star Hall. Therefore, Du Xiaofu did not find it cruel at all. Concentrating all his attention on controlling the flames inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, Du Xiaofu did not dare be careless. The flames inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron were too great, enough to burn the Yin Thunder old man's body to ashes. But if the flames inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron were too small, the temperature would not be high enough, and the impurities inside the Yin Thunder old man's body would not be refined, which would not meet the requirements for refining a puppet. Time slowly passed, and under Du Xiaofu's careful refinement, the impurities inside the Yin Thunder old man's body were gradually refined, and he was already slowly becoming stronger. The Yin Thunder old man's screams became softer and softer. His sparkling muscles were filled with runes and radiance. The body of a martial domain realm cultivator was definitely extraordinary. However, the flames inside Du Xiaofu's spiritual stove talisman cauldron were no longer the same as before. The flames were like divine flames, causing the Yin Thunder old man's body to constantly shrink as if there was power condensing. Du Xiaofu gradually became familiar with such refinement, but the consumption was also great. His face was pale, and he was sweating profusely. This consumption was great. Du Xiaofu sighed inside. Fortunately, he was a Nirvana Grand Sovereign. If he was at the peak of the 9-star Nirvana realm, he probably would not have been able to hold on. Du Xiaofu refined wholeheartedly. Inside the spiritual stove talisman cauldron, the Yin Thunder Old Man's body had already become dark, as if it was wrapped in a faint dark membrane. At this moment, the Yin Thunder Old Man's body was sparkling and translucent, but the runes had already been restrained. His bones and muscles had all undergone an absolute refinement. At a glance, he gave off an astonishing feeling of power. Begin the third step. Lu Xiaoyu frowned slightly. He could not afford to make a mistake in the next step. Qi, as the hand seal condensed, a silver-gold energy pillar shot out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows, and immediately entered the Yin Thunder Old Man's forehead. Kid, it's not that easy to refine me into a puppet. I'll fight it out with you. Within the Yin Thunder Old Man's Naiwan palace, his soul roared. His eyes were filled with hatred. His soul was imprisoned in the Naiwan palace, but at this moment, as Du Xiaofu's soul power surged in, he immediately pounced towards Du Xiaofu. Rumble, the Yin Thunder Old Man was also a genuine martial domain realm cultivator. The power of his soul was extremely powerful. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in his Naiwan palace. Runes shone resplendently as they swept out in all directions. Obliterate. Du Xiaofu's voice resounded like thunder in the Yin Thunder Old Man's Naiwan palace. A silver-gold light burst out and descended with the supreme pressure, directly suppressing the Yin Thunder Old Man's soul. A large number of dazzling silver-gold runes were released and turned into a cage, binding the Yin Thunder Old Man's soul within. The power of Du Xiaofu's soul was too strong. With the supreme pressure, it was completely beyond the Yin Thunder Old Man's imagination. The strength of the soul was not something the Yin Thunder Old Man could touch. The silver-gold runes were like electric arcs, binding the Yin Thunder Old Man and obliterating the will in his soul. All of this made the Yin Thunder Old Man's hair stand on end. Fear surged from the depths of his soul, but he could not stop it in time. That deep sense of helplessness made the Yin Thunder Old Man feel like he was in a state of utter misery. This time, the Yin Thunder Old Man thought that he would definitely be able to capture Du Xiaofu. But the final result was something the Yin Thunder Old Man had never expected. He ended up like this. Du Xiaofu used the power of his soul to obliterate the will in the Yin Thunder Old Man's soul. When creating a living puppet, the most important thing was its soul and primordial spirit. The puppet would retain its original soul and primordial spirit, allowing it to be filled with intelligence and its own consciousness. At the same time, it would retain the skills and techniques it had when it was alive and would absolutely obey its master. Everything depended on its primordial spirit. If the soul was completely obliterated, all the previous efforts would be in vain. What one would get would only be a dead puppet. Only by wiping out the consciousness and will within the Yuan spirit and leaving behind pure Yuan spirit power and intelligence was the most difficult, and also the most terrifying. Once such a puppet was refined, it would not only be an absolute killing machine, but also a killing machine with intelligence. How terrifying would that be? However, Du Xiaofu had succeeded in the end. With his freakish primordial spirit power, although it was Du Xiaofu's first time refining it and he had almost failed a few times, he had still succeeded in the end. As the Yin Thunder Old Man's soul and self-consciousness were completely obliterated, Du Xiaofu directly injected a ray of silver-gold soul power into the depths of the former's soul and set up a seal to control the latter's soul. Chapter 1437. Secret Puppet Technique, Condense. In the next instant, Du Xiaofu's eyes shone brightly, and his whole body rippled with white divine light. The solution of the refining materials in the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron immediately boiled up, and then directly poured on the body of the Yin Thunder Elder. ZZ, as the liquid poured onto the Yin Lightning Old Man's body, it produced a sizzling sound. Inscriptions pulsed and shone resplendently as the energy of the world surged. Hand seals condensed one after another. Du Xiaofu became even more focused, not daring to be careless at all. Strands of strange light condensed from Du Xiaofu's hand seals, turning into the light of mysterious inscriptions. In the end, they landed on the Yin lightning old man's body. Under the light of these inscriptions, the boiling magma of the materials fused with the Yin lightning old man's body that had been tempered. At this moment, the Yin lightning old man's originally dull and empty eyes, which were almost dead, began to strangely and slowly reveal an ice-cold pale white gaze. This gaze seemed to come from a creature that had emerged from the depths of hell. It gave off an icy cold feeling, enough to make people's hair stand on end. At this moment, as the liquid of the refining materials and the inscriptions in Du Xiaofu's hand descended, the Yin lightning old man's body began to dark green. It shone with an icy green metallic luster. He had completely turned into a puppet. Boom! At a certain moment, the space trembled, and the aura surrounding the puppet instantly started to rise. A berserk aura gushed out, and even the raging flames inside the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron were shaken, causing Du Xiaofu's spiritual stove and symbol cauldron to shake violently. The rising aura was not small, and even Du Xiaofu felt some pressure. From the puppet, the aura continued to rise as if it was unstoppable. It was done in a single spurt of energy. It's a success. The puppet is becoming stronger. Looking at everything before him, Du Xiaofu could not help but be overjoyed. However, the puppet's aura did not continue to rise for long before stabilizing. Boom! The puppet leapt out from the spiritual stove, landing in front of Du Xiaofu. Its whole body was covered in a dark green metallic luster, occasionally flickering with yellow lightning. Awe-inspiring, it seemed to contain explosive power, ready to explode at any time. Du Xiaofu sized up the puppet in front of him. The puppet's eyes turned, as if it was sizing up Du Xiaofu as well. Their hearts were connected, as if their primordial spirits were connected. This was the result of the primordial spirit imprint that Du Xiaofu had placed. Du Xiaofu felt that the aura of the puppet before him did not seem to have increased by much. It should be because it was his first time refining it and he was not very familiar with it. But no matter what, Du Xiaofu was happy that he had succeeded on his first try. From now on, you'll be called Yin Thunder Centipede, right? Du Xiaofu looked at the puppet in front of him. The yellow arcs of lightning that flowed from time to time should be related to the lightning abilities that the Yin Lightning Elder had cultivated before his death. It also allowed him to become even more powerful after being refined into a puppet. Yes, Master. The puppet nodded in response. Its voice was cold and emotionless. Although its eyes were empty, they flickered with yellow arcs of lightning. It was clearly different from ordinary puppets. Punch me with all your strength. Du Xiaofu said. He could not help but want to try out the power of the puppet he had refined for the first time. Boom! The Yin Thunder Centipede moved directly, turning into a yellow streamer. Behind it, yellow electric arcs rose and fell like a storm, exuding an astonishing pressure, accompanied by thunderous rumbles. A fist wrapped in electric arcs appeared directly in front of Du Xiaofu. This punch was very terrifying. It shattered the space and shook the ancient space as if it was on the verge of collapse. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect the Yin Thunder Centipede to attack so quickly. He shook his arm and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. Golden light shone from his fist, like golden lava gushing out. He directly collided with the Yin Thunder Centipede. The golden light in front of his fist exploded, and mysterious runes flashed. It was as if the space was collapsing. Boom! The 2 fists directly collided. The space exploded, and a dazzling wave of runes appeared, as if to overturn the ancient space. Then, the Yin Lightning Elder directly retreated. Du Xiaofu did not move at all, like a rock. So strong. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes revealed a look of astonishment. The defense of the Dark Thunder Centipede was really strong. The collision of their fists caused the sound of metal exploding. That strength was also very terrifying. If not for the fact that he was not afraid of lightning and was almost immune to the power of lightning, he would have suffered some hidden losses just now. With one punch, Du Xiaofu could already judge that the Yin Lightning Elder's body puppet's defense had reached an amazing level. Its strength had also increased a lot compared to when it was alive. It could be said that compared to the initial domain of the devil religion's martial domain realm that he had killed before, it was absolutely tyrannical. The Yin Lightning Elder retreated far away, and the lightning in its eyes flashed. It did not continue to attack. There were some traces of collision on its fist. Under Du Xiaofu's punch, its fist was not damaged. It's really good. Looking at the Yin Lightning Elder, Du Xiaofu became more and more satisfied. This was no ordinary puppet. In a real battle, it was likely that there would be very few people among the initial domain stage who would be able to deal with it. In addition, the puppet's physique was already abnormally strong, and its strength was absolutely astonishing. This time, I have to thank the devil religion for giving me a big gift. Du Xiaofu pursed his lips and smiled. A martial domain realm puppet was definitely a big gift. If he had known earlier, he would not have killed the devil religion's martial domain realm middle-aged man. He should have stopped them earlier and asked Jialo Jueyu and the others to show mercy. If he could refine the 4 devil religion's martial domain realm cultivators into such puppets, they would be absolutely terrifying helpers by his side. They would be loyal and would never betray him. After admiring himself with satisfaction, Du Xiaofu kept the Yin Lightning Elder into his Qianquan bag. After cleaning up the surroundings, Du Xiaofu threw a few elixirs into his mouth. He sat down cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. This time, refining the Yin Lightning Elder had exhausted Du Xiaofu greatly. He circulated the golden-winged Great Rock Clan's cultivation technique and began to absorb the energy of the elixirs to recover. When Du Xiaofu had recovered to his peak, he flew out of the ancient desolate space and found the flaming wind chariot floating in the air. The 4th Elder and the 5th Elder were looking ahead. We have arrived at the Tianhuang mainland. However, something seems to have happened there. The wormhole has been sealed and many savage beasts have gathered along the way. Seeing Du Xiaofu, the Zither Devil, Shangguan Qi Xian, said. What a strong smell of blood. There was a bloody battle nearby not long ago. Du Xiaofu stood on the Galewind fire chariot and surveyed his surroundings. High up in the air was filled with the stench of blood. Mountains and earth had collapsed and were dyed red with blood. Not long ago, a terrifying battle took place here. The Tianhuang city is in front. We will know the reason if we ask around. The 4th Elder said indifferently. They did not care much about the changes in the outside world. In order not to attract too much attention, the 5th Elder kept the flaming wind chariot. Everyone also concealed their auras and went to the Tianhuang city to ask around. Outside the Tianhuang city, Du Xiaofu was surprised to see many savage beasts inspecting. He did not know what they were inspecting. Someone in front secretly gave some elixirs to the savage beasts before they could enter the city. Du Xiaofu was not afraid of those savage beasts. Jialo Yi and Jialo Yuantu, the 4th Elder and 5th Elder of the golden-winged Great Rock Clan, were not afraid either. However, before he figured out the situation, Du Xiaofu chose to give a few elixirs to the inspecting savage beasts to reduce the trouble. Only then could they enter the city. These savage beasts are too much. They actually trapped us here. Lower your voice, lest those savage beasts hear you. This is the Tianhuang mainland. It is the territory of those savage beasts. It is better for us to hide. Some people discussed on the street, feeling indignant. I am the protector of the Black Lotus Church in Wanzhou. Let's see if those savage beasts dare to touch me. A black-clad middle-aged man stood on the street and said with his head held high, looking angry. Bang! However, just as that black-clad middle-aged man spoke, a huge foot descended from the sky. The foot was covered in talisman scripts and had an extremely ferocious aura. It crushed the ground on the street, and the surrounding buildings shook and cracked. That black-clad middle-aged man was also trampled into meat paste by the huge foot. So what if you are from the Black Lotus Church? Everyone, behave yourselves. During the lockdown of the Tianhuang city, only people can enter and not leave. Anyone who talks without permission will be killed without mercy. A deafening sound resounded like thunder. A giant bear that was hundreds of feet tall crossed the building and left. Its terrifying aura made everyone in Tianhuang city keep quiet out of fear and tremble in fear. Mysterious sovereign beast. Du Xiaofu looked at that huge savage bear, a mysterious sovereign beast. He could not help but drool. It had been a long time since he had a good meal. However, Du Xiaofu held back and did not make a move. He still did not know what had happened in the Tianhuang mainland. According to what Du Xiaofu knew, the Tianhuang mainland was full of danger. There were people from all walks of life. There were also many rogue cultivators and savage beasts hiding among them. Now that there was such a huge commotion and savage beasts sealing the city, it was definitely not ordinary. Du Xiaofu thought that something big must have happened in the Tianhuang mainland. Tell me what has happened in the Tianhuang mainland recently. Otherwise, die. A moment later, at a corner, the middle-aged zither devil's demonic beast mount fiercely captured an old man in his 50s. Just his aura alone was enough to make the old man tremble in fear. Legend has it that not long ago, the desolation leopard of the Tianhuang cliff obtained a treasure. However, it was betrayed by its second commander, Jin Gu, who leaked the news to the Sky Moon poisonous spider and the savage Gu Condor. Therefore, the Sky Moon poisonous spider and the savage Gu Condor joined forces and defeated the desolation leopard 5 days ago. Now, they should be gathered at the bottom of the Tianhuang cliff, planning to completely eliminate the desolation leopard. Afraid that the news of the treasure would be leaked, the Sky Moon poisonous spider and the savage Gu Condor sealed the Tianhuang city and the wormhole. Chapter 1438. The old man's body trembled as he explained the general situation with fear. Facing the ferocious middle-aged man, he was even more fearful than the aura of the barbarian bear. The Sky Moon poison spider, the savage Chong eagle, and the desolation leopard were the three kings of the Tianhuang mainland and controlled the entire Tianhuang mainland. The three of them had always restrained each other, but for the sake of the treasure and the fact that the desolation leopard was getting stronger, the Sky Moon poison spider and the savage Chong eagle joined forces. Let's go. The middle-aged man who was the zither demon's mount shouted for the old man to leave after receiving Du Xiaofu's signal. To think that these savage beasts still exist in the Tianhuang mainland. However, it seems that they are far from what they used to be. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, sighed with a hint of vicissitudes in his eyes. Elder, do the savage beasts of the Tianhuang mainland have a history? Du Xiaofu asked curiously when he heard that. However, he frowned slightly at this moment. The desolation leopard was an old acquaintance. The rumor has been around for a long time, but it shouldn't be wrong. Now, the strongest among the beasts are still the scaled beasts and the birds. There are dragons and phoenixes, but among the walking beasts, only the tiger race can stand up to them. However, in a true comparison, even the white tiger race is slightly inferior to the dragons and phoenixes. Back then, the Qilin race reigned supreme among the walking beasts, while the scaled beasts reigned supreme among the dragons and phoenixes. Later on, the dragons and phoenixes joined forces to defeat the Qilin race during the Great Tribulation of the dragons and phoenixes. From then on, the Qilin race vanished without a trace and has not appeared since. There are rumors that the Qilin race has long been destroyed. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, said to Du Xiaofu, the savage beasts on the Tianhuang mainland now are the bloodlines left behind by the followers of the Qilin race. After the Qilin race was defeated, the remnants of the Qilin race fled to the Tianhuang mainland. Rumor has it that they escaped the calamity under the protection of a supreme expert. That supreme expert said that he would not protect those savage beasts once he left Tianhuang mainland. As time passed, the remnants of the defeated army that followed the Qilin race reproduced here. Out of fear of the dragon race and phoenix race, they did not leave and left behind some ancestral teachings that they were not allowed to leave Tianhuang mainland for generations. Later on, the dragon race and the phoenix race both suffered heavy losses, and a great calamity appeared. Then, the human race prospered in the world, and they were incompatible with the beast race. As time passed, there were very few people in Tianhuang mainland, and those savage beasts got used to it as well. None of them ventured out, and Tianhuang mainland became a barren land. Those savage beasts were trapped here, and since ancient times, they have been declining. To think that the savage beasts of Tianhuang mainland have such a history that was passed down from the ancient times. Qilin race was Qilin the heavens, beasts, Qilin the heavens race. Chu, back then, Du Xiaofu had learned from the desolation leopard that it revered the Qilin race as its leader. It did not like the dragons and phoenixes and even viewed them as enemies. It turned out that there was such an ancient history behind it. Some small savage beasts can't do much. Let's just head to the wormhole, said the fifth elder. Jialo Yuan2. The savage beasts had sealed off the wormhole and the Tianhuang city, but he naturally did not care about it. Elders, I'm afraid we can't do that now. There are some things we have to intervene in. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He already knew about this. Putting aside the fact that he had some ties with the desolation leopard, he had used the desolation leopard's blood essence to refine his body. He had even advanced from a martial venerable to a mystical martial venerable. Although he had used the purple thunder profound cauldron to refine his body and the golden rock's blood essence to help him evolve, it was still considered a deal. Moreover, Scarlet Rock was the desolation leopard's adopted son. Even if it was just that, Du Xiaofu would not just stand by and do nothing when he knew about it. The Tianhuang city was naturally unable to trap Du Xiaofu, the Zither demon, Jialo Yi, and the fourth elder. If they wanted to leave, the savage beasts would not even be able to detect them. The roars of the beasts were endless. Huge savage beasts gathered everywhere. There were millions of them densely packed together. Rumble, a ferocious aura gathered and soared into the sky. Wherever the beast tide passed, the mountains collapsed and the ground trembled. At dusk, a huge mountain range appeared. The mountain range was like a vast cliff surrounded by dark clouds. The fluctuations of the aura were unusual. Swoosh swoosh. 5 figures appeared quietly. They were Du Xiaofu, Elder Jialo Yi, Elder Jialo Yuan2, the Zither demon, Shangguan Qi Xian and his mount. Is this the Tianhuang cliff? There seems to be an extraordinary talisman formation, but it is already damaged. The Zither demon looked ahead. The aura around the mountain range was ancient and there were energy fluctuations. There should be a talisman formation, and it was not an ordinary one. There are many ancient talisman formations here. Rumor has it that they have existed for a long time, so they are already damaged. If an unfamiliar person comes in, it will be easy for him or her to fall into danger. Du Xiaofu said to the Zither demon. This was what Blue Fantasy had told him. There are intruders. Capture them. Suddenly, many figures rushed out from the mountain range in front of them. Hundreds of ferocious auras swept over. They were on standby. Retreat. It's a friend, not an enemy. Inform the commander that an old friend has come to visit. Du Xiaofu's purple robe fluttered. He stood with his hands behind his back. An invisible aura fluctuated faintly. The hundreds of savage beast experts did not dare to come close. Their beast souls trembled for no reason. All of you, retreat. Quickly retreat. A delicate shout was heard. A blue fairy-like girl suddenly descended. She was wearing tight blue armor that outlined an absolutely seductive curve. Her delicate body also revealed a kind of vigorous gentleness. The woman also had a head of extremely special light blue hair, which was so shiny that it could reflect one's reflection. It naturally draped over her waist, and her graceful figure was extremely graceful. She looked at Du Xiaofu with astonishment in her eyes, and said, "Brother Xiaofu, why are you here?" The girl in front of him was Blue Fantasy. She was also very surprised when she saw Du Xiaofu suddenly appear. Ever since Lan Huan had followed Du Xiaofu on his adventures, she had been shocked by his ferocious and domineering nature. Later on, she had always addressed Du Xiaofu as Big Brother Xiaofu, just like Qi Peng. However, at this moment, looking at the people beside Du Xiaofu, they seemed to be extremely unfamiliar. The black-robed youth was also not present. The expression in her beautiful eyes couldn't help but secretly dim a little. "I heard the news and came to see if I could help." Du Xiaofu smiled. Seeing that Scarlet Rock did not appear, he then asked, "Miss Blue Fantasy, where is Scarlet Rock?" Hearing this, Blue Fantasy frowned and said, "Scarlet Rock is injured. Her injuries are not light. My father is treating Scarlet Rock's injuries. Quickly take me there." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's face instantly darkened. A moment later, Du Xiaofu saw Scarlet Rock sitting cross-legged in a large hall on the heavenly cliff. At this moment, Scarlet Rock had the appearance of a 13 or 14-year-old youth. His face was resolute and his body was majestic. However, his eyes were tightly shut and his aura was weak. His face was also very pale. Scarlet Rock's injuries are very serious, but she should be fine now. She needs time to recover. Fortunately, her foundation was not damaged. How fortunate. Within the hall, the Desolation Leopard's deep eyes surged with cold anger. Although his body was thin, his aura was powerful. His aura caused the patterned cloak on his body to flutter. Du Xiaofu stepped forward with a serious expression and checked Scarlet Rock's injuries. It could be seen that the Desolation Leopard had spent a lot of effort to treat Scarlet Rock's injuries. Just as the Desolation Leopard had said, Scarlet Rock was fine now, but she needed time to rest. After relaxing his tense mood, Du Xiaofu stuffed a few decent healing pills into Scarlet Rock's mouth. Then, he moved Scarlet Rock into the ancient Desolation space. After doing all this, Du Xiaofu asked the Desolation Leopard, "Great Commander, who injured Scarlet Rock?" "I was fighting with the Sky Moon venomous spider Ngudiao. I was careless and that bastard Jin Gu injured Scarlet Rock," the Desolation Leopard said with his fists clenched. Jin Gu was his second commander. This time, not only did he betray him, but he also almost caused his foster son, Scarlet Rock, to die. He was furious. Jin Gu. Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed with a golden light. He still remembered that person. He was Jin Gu's father. His original form was a golden-scaled ancient lion. He did not have a good impression of him back then. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu roughly understood the situation from the Desolation Leopard. Not long ago, in a secret place, the Desolation Leopard obtained a treasure by chance. That treasure was extraordinary, but Jin Gu suddenly betrayed him. He led many experts to join the Sky Moon venomous spider and the Gudiao. His body was tempered by the golden divine thunder, and he had obtained the golden winged rock's blood essence and divine ability. His strength was superior to the Gudiao and the Sky Moon venomous spider. However, when the two beasts joined forces, the Desolation Leopard could only barely resist them. However, a portion of the Desolation Cliff's savage beast experts had been lured away by Jin Gu. With the Sky Moon venomous spider and the Gudiao joining forces, it was naturally difficult for the Desolation Cliff to fight. In the most intense battle 5 days ago, the Desolation Cliff suffered a great defeat and suffered great losses. This is the treasure. I have studied it for a long time, but I know nothing about it. I don't even know anything about it. A moment later, the Desolation Leopard brought Du Xiaofu to a secret room. Accompanying them were Zither Demon, 4th Elder Jialo Yi, and 5th Elder Jialo Yuan-tu. The Desolation Leopard could tell that Du Xiaofu was extremely respectful towards the two old men. The auras of the two old men were withdrawn, causing it to be difficult for the leopard to detect any fluctuations. However, this caused the leopard to feel uneasy in its heart. Therefore, the Desolation Leopard was not rude. He was also very polite to 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuan-tu. Sensing the Zither Demon's aura, the Desolation Leopard was secretly surprised. To have such a cultivation at such a young age, he was definitely not an ordinary person. There was a yellow stone the size of an adult's palm on a stone table in the secret room. The stone was round and smooth. It was covered with layers of dark runes. It looked like a rune, but there was no aura or light. However, the strange thing was that the round yellow stone was filled with a yellow light from time to time. It was faintly discernible and gave off an ancient aura. Chapter 1439. The presence seemed to have crossed through time and space, causing Du Xiaofu, the Zither Demon, the 4th Elder, and the 5th Elder to enter the secret room. Immediately, their eyes trembled, and their gazes landed on it. I don't know what this is. I've studied it for a long time and tried many methods, but to no avail. The Desolation Leopard said to Du Xiaofu and the rest. Ever since he had obtained this item, he had studied it for a long time but to no avail. He did not know what it was, but he could sense that it was definitely not an ordinary item. How strange. The 4th Elder, Jialo Yi, and the 5th Elder, Jialo Yuan-tu, carefully studied the yellow rock. They could clearly sense that it was something extraordinary. The presence made them tremble. They probed it with their souls, but to no avail. The Zither Demon also studied it with interest, but in the end, he could only shake his head. Du Xiaofu studied the yellow rock. He tried channeling his profound energy into it, but it did not respond at all. In the end, Du Xiaofu even tried dripping a drop of blood on it, but there was still no response when the faint golden blood landed on the round yellow rock. What on earth is this thing? Du Xiaofu frowned. He tried to use force to split the round yellow rock, but he discovered that it was tougher than anything else. Swish! Even when Du Xiaofu used his full strength in the end, he was unable to damage it at all. Du Xiaofu, the 4th Elder, the 5th Elder, and the Zither Demon were all very shocked. I've tried all these methods. They're all useless. The Desolation Leopard smiled at Du Xiaofu. He had tried dripping a drop of blood on it, probing with his soul, and so on. If they were useful, he would have discovered them long ago. Is this a divine material for forging weapons? Du Xiaofu was puzzled. He really wanted to try and see if the round yellow rock was really so tough that it was indestructible. He formed a seal with his hand, and a spiritual stove symbol cauldron immediately appeared. Boom! Immediately, the 5-colored spiritual stove symbol cauldron became scorching hot. Flames roared as an ancient pressure filled the surroundings, causing the Desolation Leopard to secretly tremble. How did he become so strong? What a monster! The Desolate Sky Leopard was secretly shocked. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, the youth before him had only just become a martial saint. His subsequent breakthroughs were already very terrifying. However, at this moment, the aura from the cauldron already made the Desolate Sky Leopard tremble uncontrollably. He was unable to see through the exact level of the aura, but the ancient pressure from the 5-colored cauldron was definitely not simple. Walala! Du Xiaofu threw the perfectly round yellow stone into the spiritual stove symbol cauldron, but after no less than 2 hours, that perfectly round yellow stone still didn't show any reaction. Even its color didn't change, but it was still filled with a kind of yellow radiance, faintly discernible. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to give up. That round yellow rock was like a stubborn rock that could not be destroyed. However, the ancient aura that permeated the air was sufficient to cause the hearts of everyone present to tremble. Furthermore, its indestructibility was sufficient to prove that this item was no ordinary item. Great Commander, how did you obtain this item? Du Xiaofu picked up the perfectly round yellow stone, intentionally or otherwise, and bit into it. He even muttered softly, "This thing, could it be an egg left behind by an ancient ferocious bird? Perhaps it can be eaten." Hearing that, the zither demon rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. That savage guy was actually still thinking about eating at a time like this. I obtained this item from an ancient land. When this item appeared, it caused strange phenomena in the surroundings, causing clouds to move, lightning to flash, and thunder to rumble. As a result, Jin Gu thought that I had obtained a peerless treasure and asked me to borrow it to take a look. I took it out, but Jin Gu didn't believe me. Afterwards, he wanted to propose to Blue Fantasy for Jin Lin's sake. I respected Blue Fantasy's wishes and could only refuse. I never thought that he would become dissatisfied and side with the Skymoon venomous spider and the savage venomous condor. I already knew that he had ulterior motives, so I wanted to give him another chance out of consideration for our friendship. The desolate sky leopard's eyes were cold as he clenched his fists. I can't bite through it. It doesn't look like an egg. Du Xiaofu muttered. He put down the perfectly round yellow rock in his hand and planned to throw it to the side. He really couldn't figure out the origin of this item. However, according to the desolate sky leopard, this item had caused strange phenomena, lightning, and thunder when it appeared. It should have an extraordinary origin. Chi La, suddenly, the secret room shone with a yellow light that turned into a golden light. There were also golden arcs of lightning wreaking havoc. The dazzling light made it difficult for everyone to open their eyes. In the next moment, even Jialo Ye's fourth elder and Jialo Yuantu's fifth elder were unable to react. After the dazzling golden light dissipated, Du Xiaofu was left in a daze, his eyes tightly shut. At this moment, the perfectly round yellow rock in Du Xiaofu's hand had disappeared. What's going on? The four looked at Du Xiaofu in astonishment. Everyone had clearly seen the change just now. It came from Du Xiaofu. Chi. A while later, Du Xiaofu opened his tightly shut eyes. They shone with a dazzling light, but he seemed a little dazed. The corner of his mouth twitched uncontrollably as he said, "Shit, what's wrong? Where's the item?" Jialo Yuantu nervously asked Du Xiaofu. "I don't know what's going on either. That thing has entered my Naiwan palace and I can't drive it out." Du Xiaofu was at a loss. He had just planned to throw the yellow rock back, but who knew that he would want to see if the power of his Yuan spirit would have any effect. He had originally only used his Yuan spirit to probe the item, but a strand of his Yuan spirit had shot out from his forehead and landed on the perfectly round yellow rock. Du Xiaofu thought that there would be no reaction. Who would have thought that the previously unresponsive yellow rock would suddenly seem to come alive? With the speed of lightning, it swallowed the strand of his Yuan spirit, and then directly rushed into his Naiwan palace. Du Xiaofu wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Du Xiaofu was greatly alarmed and a foreign object entered his Naiwan palace. He immediately urged his Yuan spirit to expel it. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu noticed that after the strange completely round yellow glowing rock entered his Naiwan palace, the dense and intricate dark markings that covered it seemed to have come to life. They were suffused with a dazzling golden glow that covered a layer of strange talisman markings, and they were suffused with an even more ancient and shocking aura. At the same time, the perfectly round rock, which was originally indestructible, seemed to come alive as the runes flickered. It was no longer hard, as if it had become soft and boneless. It even began to quietly absorb the power of his Yuan spirit. The speed at which it absorbed the Yuan spirit was extremely slow, like that of a baby who needed to be breastfed. It would not cause too much of an impact on Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit, but it was enough to shock Du Xiaofu. At the very least, the foreign object did not fear the spiritual lightning in Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit. It was as if it needed to devour the spiritual lightning. No matter how Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit tried to expel it, the foreign object was like duckweed, moving with the wind in Du Xiaofu's Naiwan palace. As Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit attacks floated and landed on the mysterious foreign object, it was like a rainstorm hitting a banana leaf, causing it to fluctuate. But it was able to dissipate the force without leaving a trace. There was nothing it could do. Is there any danger? Fourth Elder Jialo Ye's expression turned serious. The foreign object had entered Du Xiaofu's Naiwan palace. The Naiwan palace was the most important place for a cultivator, so he could not help but be nervous. There doesn't seem to be any danger for now. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and shook his head. He could not expel the foreign object at all. However, the foreign object did not seem to have any intention of attacking him. At least, there were no signs of it attacking him. The mysterious foreign object refused to come out of the Naiwan palace. It was only absorbing the Yuan spirit like a baby drinking milk. Do you want to go back to the clan and take a look? Fifth Elder Jialo Yuantu was worried. After returning to the clan, the Sacred Elder and the First Elder would be there. Perhaps they would be able to see some problems. If there was a problem, it would be too late to regret it. There should be no danger for now. Du Xiaofu was not a careless person, but he still shook his head. The Scarlet Horse Monkey Yuan spirit also stopped attacking. There was an intangible feeling that made Du Xiaofu feel that the foreign object did not have any intention of attacking him. It was as if it was still in his Naiwan palace, giving off a joyful feeling. First Commander, this, Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly at the Desolation Leopard. After all, the treasure belonged to the Desolation Leopard. Now that it was in his Naiwan palace, it seemed like he had taken it by force. Little brother Xiaofu, there is no need to say anything more. I am also unable to figure out what this treasure is. It should be fated to be with you. As the saying goes, the fated shall obtain it. The Desolation Leopard could do nothing about it now. He could only smile bitterly. Although he was unable to figure out what the foreign object was, he could sense that it was definitely a treasure. Even if he was unable to figure it out, the Desolation Leopard was still unwilling to part with it. However, with the current situation, the Desolation Leopard had absolute faith in Du Xiaofu's character. Therefore, there was nothing he could do other than smile bitterly. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. After a moment of hesitation, he said to the Desolation Leopard, "How about this, First Commander? I'll help you deal with the current trouble at the Desolation Cliff. In addition, I have a legacy left behind by an ancient saint-patterned leopard expert. I can give it to you or Blue Fantasy as compensation." There were quite a few legacies from the ancient beast clan in the Celestial Beast Hall. Although he did not know what the foreign object was and it might even be a threat to him, Du Xiaofu was too embarrassed to take it for free. He took out the legacy of an ancient saint-patterned leopard to make up for it. Furthermore, Du Xiaofu had a good relationship with the Desolation Leopard. From the injuries on Scarlet Rock's body, Du Xiaofu could clearly see that the Desolation Leopard was willing to expend all his energy to heal Scarlet Rock at the critical moment of the Desolation Cliff. This showed that he treated Scarlet Rock as his own flesh and blood. Therefore, he was willing to take out the legacy of an ancient saint-patterned leopard. One had to know that the legacy of an ancient saint-patterned leopard was definitely not simple. For it to have the word saint in it, it meant that the legendary Saint Martial Realm and Saint Beast Realm existed. Chapter 1440. The fact that the ancient sacred patterned leopard had the word sacred was enough to prove what the ancient sacred patterned leopard represented. It was the top bloodline of the ancient leopard clan, the supreme existence of the leopard clan. Back then, the Silver Blood Leopard King did not obtain the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance in the Heavenly Beast Hall. He only obtained another top leopard inheritance that was second only to the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance. Ancient Sacred Patterned Leopard Inheritance. Hearing this, the Desolation Leopard's eyes trembled. As the king of the leopard clan, how could he not know what the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance represented? If Du Xiaofu had said that he would exchange the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance for that unknown treasure, the desolation leopard would have agreed without hesitation. The ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance was too important to the leopard clan. Pass it to Blue Fantasy. I'm not young anymore. Blue Fantasy's future will be even brighter. The desolation leopard did not hesitate to hand over the inheritance of the ancient saint patterned leopard to his daughter, Lan Huan. As for Du Xiaofu's words, he had absolute faith in them. It would not be strange for someone who could take out the divine lightning body forging technique and the golden-winged rock's blood to possess the inheritance of the ancient saint patterned leopard. Alright, after dealing with the desolation cliff, I'll arrange for Blue Fantasy to receive the inheritance. Du Xiaofu nodded. The effect of Blue Fantasy receiving the inheritance was indeed better than the desolation leopard receiving the inheritance. Originally, with Blue Fantasy's talent, it would not be difficult for her to surpass her father in the future. After receiving the ancient sacred patterned leopard inheritance, her future would be limitless. The Desolation Cliff's crisis this time is difficult to resolve. The Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao will definitely not let this go. Jin Gu heavily injured Scarlet Rock but did not kill her. He is using my weakness. His goal is to make me waste my energy to treat Scarlet Rock. They seem to be gathering beasts these days, but they are actually giving me time to treat Scarlet Rock. According to my guess, they should know that I'm almost done treating Scarlet Rock. They will attack tomorrow at the latest. They will take advantage of my exhaustion to completely deal with Desolation Cliff. The Desolation Leopard pondered for a while and frowned. His expression was grave as he said to Du Xiaofu, Jin Gu is also familiar with the ancient formation on Desolation Cliff. I'm afraid Desolation Cliff won't be able to stop them. If tomorrow is really the last moment, then I'll ask little brother Xiaofu for a favor. Take Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock and leave. The further, the better. The Desolation Leopard could feel that Du Xiaofu's strength had greatly improved since Du Xiaofu had come to help. The two old men, in particular, were unfathomable. However, the Desolation Leopard did not think too much about it. After all, the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao were newcomers to the beast region. They had come prepared and had many powerful beasts under them. They were not easy to deal with. That Jin Gu is truly sinister. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered when he heard that. Golden light flickered through his eyes. Du Xiaofu did not doubt the Desolation Leopard's guess. Not only was the Desolation Leopard domineering, but he was also vicious. Du Xiaofu had personally witnessed it. Back then, he had hidden his identity on Tianhuang continent, but he had not been able to escape the Desolation Leopard's eyes. The Desolation Leopard had even guessed his relationship with his drunkard father. It was enough to show how vicious the Desolation Leopard was. Otherwise, the Desolation Leopard would not have been able to suppress the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao for so many years. He definitely did not rely on strength alone. Xiaofu, if you're in a hurry to return to the Central Plains, I'll go exterminate the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao right now. Jialo Yuantu said to Du Xiaofu. He truly did not care about the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao. The Desolation Leopard could not help but click his tongue when he heard Jialo Yuantu's words. Although he felt that the two old men were definitely not simple, their tone was definitely not small either. Du Xiaofu smiled helplessly. If the fifth elder were to take action, the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao would probably die without even knowing how they died. There's no need to trouble the two elders. I can deal with this small matter myself. I don't mind delaying it for a day or two. Du Xiaofu was already rather embarrassed to have the two elders personally accompany him back to the Central Plains. He did not want to trouble the two elders with such a small matter. From the information he had gathered along the way, the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao were barely able to suppress the Desolation Leopard by working together. Du Xiaofu could more or less guess the strength of the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao. He was enough to deal with them. Even the Yin Thunder Centipede on him was enough. There was no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. It would be overestimating the two beasts to let the fourth and fifth elders do it personally. Commander, don't worry. You should rest and recover first. If the Sky Moon Spider and Savage Chongdiao really dare to come tomorrow morning, I will definitely lend a hand. It won't be a big problem. Du Xiaofu then reassured the Desolation Leopard. It was already night time, so he did not mind delaying it for another day and a half. Sensing Du Xiaofu's confidence, the Desolation Leopard did not say anything else. He understood the purple-robed youth in front of him quite well. Therefore, he was also quite confident. Subsequently, Du Xiaofu went to see Qi Yan, Yu, and Qi Yan, Yao. Qi Yan, and Qi Yan, had improved a lot in the past few years after the divine lightning body refinement. Qi Yan and Qi Yan had been worried about Scarlet Rock's injuries for the past few days. After hearing that Scarlet Rock was fine, they were relieved. However, they were still worried about the danger of the desolate cliff. However, when they saw Du Xiaofu come, the two of them were overjoyed. They even asked about Dongli Qingqing. The last two times they saw Du Xiaofu, they saw Dongli Qingqing beside him. I don't know where she is right now. In Du Xiaofu's mind, that fairy-like beauty also appeared. He did not know why she left without saying goodbye last time, and there had been no news about her since then. He would often think about her. The moonlight was tranquil and the stars twinkled, enveloping the vast land. Within the desolate cliff, the roars of savage beasts could be heard from time to time. The sound waves reverberated through the night sky. The moonlight was like silk, and the night wind blew gently. Du Xiaofu stood quietly, slightly raising his head and looking at a certain place. His eyes were suffused with a faint golden brilliance. Not enough. After a while, Du Xiaofu lowered his head and murmured softly. Although he had broken through to the nirvana stage, the higher the level he came in contact with, the more he knew. Du Xiaofu knew how big the world was. At first, he thought that the domain realm was already the top powerhouse in the world. From the information of the Golden-Winged Rock clan and the Yin Thunder Old Man, he knew that the domain realm alone was a world of difference. The devil religion had 9 great devil emperors and 108 devil envoys. The weakest 9 devil emperors were already so terrifying. As for the devil god, even the supreme powerhouses, the lord of the 3,000 boundless worlds and the dragon god, could only seal it with 9 purple lightning profound cauldrons. The 9 cauldrons gather and command the 9 families. Du Xiaofu had never understood the meaning of this sentence, but the gathering of the 9 cauldrons should have something to do with the other 8 purple lightning profound cauldrons. As for commanding the 9 families, Du Xiaofu vaguely felt that it might have something to do with the 9 families in the world. Miss Blue Fantasy, haven't you rested yet? Suddenly, Du Xiaofu spoke and turned his head slightly. His eyes were no longer deep in thought, and a smile appeared on his resolute and determined face. I just came back from my patrol and saw that Brother Xiaofu was here, so I came over. With a gentle voice, Lan Huan walked out. Under the moonlight, her delicate body exuded a kind of vigorous gentleness. Her light blue long hair shone like a mirror under the moonlight, naturally draping over her waist. Her figure under the tight blue armor was even more seductive and curvy, the curves of her body were like nature itself. Brother Xiaofu, is Scarlet Rock all right? Blue Fantasy walked up to Du Xiaofu's side. Her big eyes shone with a bit of sharp light, but they were bright and clear. Scarlet Rock is fine now. She will recover with time. Du Xiaofu nodded. Brother Xiaofu, why don't I see Sister Qing Qing? Sister Qing Qing, Brother Little Demon, and Little Tiger. Blue Fantasy looked at Du Xiaofu. Her big clear eyes flickered a little. Her body under the armor was curvaceous, and her waist was tight. It was as if she was silently enchanting and sending out a seductive invitation. You want to ask about the little tiger the most, right? Du Xiaofu laughed. How could he not see that Blue Fantasy wanted to ask about the little tiger the most? Along the way, Blue Fantasy and the little tiger's first awakening of love was obvious to anyone. I didn't. After being exposed, Lan Huan blushed shyly. She gave off an enchanting vibe with a wild charm that seemed to come from her bones. She could quietly tug at a man's nerves. Looking at the girl in front of him, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but sigh. The little tiger's taste was really good. No wonder Jean Lin was always thinking about her. I haven't been with little tiger and the others recently. But don't worry, when I meet the little tiger, I'll definitely let him come and see you. Du Xiaofu smiled. Naturally, he could see that Blue Fantasy was interested in the little tiger. As for the blood relationship, it wasn't much. The little tiger and Blue Fantasy were indeed compatible. In his heart, he was happy for the little tiger. Since the beginning of the barbaric beast mountain range, the little tiger had been by his side. Although the little tiger had always been his mount, in Du Xiaofu's heart, he had long regarded the little tiger as a family member, or even a brother. He was happy to see the little tiger's relationship with Blue Fantasy in the future. I don't want him to come and see me. I was just casually asking. Brother Xiaofu, I'm going to continue patrolling. Blue Fantasy's face flushed red with shyness. Her feet lightly stomped on the ground, and her beautiful figure immediately turned and left. Du Xiaofu faintly smiled. With a sweep of the long sleeves of his purple robe, he stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the night sky. In his mind, those beautiful figures involuntarily appeared, and a slight smile appeared on his lips. Roar, under the moonlight, from time to time, the roars of beasts would endlessly reverberate in the night sky. Waves of ferocious auras condensed on the mountains and earth, causing people to tremble in fear even if they approached. Father, do we still need to wait? Chapter 1441. On a mountain peak in the mountain range, one could see the majestic and continuous desolate cliff in the distance. A muscular young man spoke. His entire body was filled with a vigorous and ferocious aura. His appearance was not bad. It was Jean Lin. Beside Jean Lin was a slightly shorter but extremely well-built middle-aged man. His eyes shone with a chilling light as he said, "It's about time. The desolate leopard won't just watch that scarlet rock die. As long as he helps, he'll need to expend a large amount of energy. At that time, the Sky Moon Venom Spider and the Goo Condor will be enough to kill him. Looking at the time, we should be able to act tomorrow morning. After tomorrow, the desolate cliff will belong to us father and son. The desolate leopard's strength has increased rapidly, and now he wants to take the treasure for himself. I've followed him for so many years in vain. Since he's so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust." The middle-aged man was Jin Gu. Seeing the desolate leopard's cultivation grow stronger and stronger while he remained stagnant, he had long suspected that the desolate leopard had obtained some sort of treasure. This time, the desolate leopard had obtained a great treasure and even caused a phenomenon in the world. However, the desolate leopard had taken out a crappy rock to trick him. He could not help but feel resentful. Originally, he wanted to follow the plan and propose Blue Fantasy to the desolate leopard for Jean Lin. As long as his son and Jean Lin married Blue Fantasy, the desolate cliff would still belong to them. Unfortunately, the desolate leopard did not take him seriously and rejected him several times. He could no longer tolerate it, so he could only secretly work with the Sky Moon Venom Spider and the Goo Condor to eliminate the desolate leopard. "Father, you have to leave Blue Fantasy for me when the time comes," said Jean Lin. He could not get Blue Fantasy's graceful figure out of his mind. Thinking that everything would come true tomorrow, he sneered coldly. "Don't worry, I'll leave Blue Fantasy to you when the time comes." Jin Gu glanced at Jin Lin before his eyes shone brightly. He shook his yellow robes and said, I've already negotiated with the Sky Moon Venom Spider and the Gu Condor. When the time comes, they only want the Desolate Leopard's bones and essence blood. I want the Desolate Cliff. As for the treasure, we'll study it together. As long as I comprehend something, I'll be able to take another step forward. Then, I wish Father success. Jin Lin was overjoyed. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Tomorrow, Blue Fantasy would definitely not be able to escape from his grasp. They would definitely submit to him. Jie, Jin Gu sneered, his voice echoing coldly in the night sky, but it was drowned out by the roars of the surrounding beasts. Roar, woo woo, early in the morning, when the first ray of light streaked across the darkness before dawn, the shocking roars of beasts in front of the heavenly desolate cliff were like the rumbling of thunder. The earth shook and the mountains shook, and a ferocious aura swept out in all directions. From the sky in front of them, huge savage beasts blotted out the sky and covered the earth. One could not see the end of them, causing the earth to tremble and the mountains to shake. The heavens and the earth began to shake violently. The huge bodies of the savage beasts galloped like a storm, causing the ground to crack. Large amounts of gravel shot out, and the mountains along the way were trampled flat. Roar, on the Tianhuang cliff, countless savage beasts roared in response. Their ferocious eyes were filled with cold light. As expected, they're here. The desolate sky leopard floated in the sky above the Tianhuang cliff along with many savage beast experts. His eyes hardened slightly. The beast tied in front of them was continuous, and there were more than 1,000,000 of them. Wherever they passed, it was as though a storm was stirred up, causing the heavens and the earth to lose its color. Fight to the end. The eyes of the savage beast experts who had been following the desolate sky leopard released a chill. In the face of the incoming army, they could only fight to the end. There was no way out. Desolate sky leopard, stop resisting. If you surrender tactfully, we can spare your life. Why do you have to implicate all your subordinates and die with you? A thunderous female voice was heard from the storm in front of them. Her voice was sharp, and it resounded across the heavens and the earth, causing the beasts on the Tianhuang cliff to tremble. Hundreds of figures had already appeared in the distant sky after her voice sounded. The 3 figures at the front distorted the space, and they were very powerful. The desolate sky leopard looked to the front with a cold expression. A bright light surged from his eyes as he said, Sky Moon Poison Spider, Wild Gujiao, there will be a day when I will destroy all of you. Desolate sky leopard, it's a pity that there is no future. Today is the day you die. The voice was deafening, and the sound waves spread out like ripples. A middle-aged man stepped out from the front. He was thin, and his face was somewhat ferocious. His eyes revealed a fierce light. However, the invisible aura of this young man distorted the surrounding space. Without a doubt, he was an expert at the beast region level. He was also one of the 3 rulers of the Tianhuang continent, the Wild Gujiao. Everyone, the desolate sky leopard can't even protect himself. Surrender. On account of our past relationship, I will ensure your safety. Don't follow the desolate sky leopard to your deaths. Jin Gu stepped out. His yellow robes fluttered, and his hair danced. His voice resounded across the sky, attempting to disrupt the morale of the Tianhuang Cliff army and cause them to surrender without a fight. Jin Gu, I will definitely destroy your spirit once you land in my hands. Killing intent shot out from the desolate sky leopard's eyes as he looked at Jin Gu in the distance. His aura surged, causing the temperature on the Tianhuang cliff to drop significantly. Swoosh swoosh. Several figures flew out from the Tianhuang cliff and landed beside the desolate sky leopard. They were the 4th elder, Jialo Yi, and the 5th elder, Jialo Yuan-tu. Great Commander, let me do it. Du Xiaofu walked at the front. His gaze had already swept across the front. He indicated to the desolate sky leopard that there was no need to worry, and stepped into the air. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, and the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, did not follow. They glanced at the lineup in front of them and did not take it to heart. They had only come out to watch the show. Only the zither demon and his mount followed behind Du Xiaofu, crossing through space. "Brother Xiaofu, be careful." Blue Fantasy was worried, and her face paled. She knew how terrifying the Skymoon poison spider and the wild Gujiao were. They had already reached the beast region level. "It's him. It's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Why is he here?" Jin Lin's expression changed drastically when Du Xiaofu appeared. How could Jin Lin forget about the Demon King, Du Xiaofu? Even the dragons, Dragon 9, had been killed by him. Jin Lin had suffered greatly back then. Later on, when the Jinlei Tensei mansion opened, Jin Lin had personally witnessed how tyrannical and savage the Demon King was. Now that he saw him again, he still felt a lingering fear. "It's that kid. Why is he here?" Jin Gu also recognized Du Xiaofu, and a cold glint surged in his eyes. Beside Jin Lin and Jin Gu, the wild Gujiao and a middle-aged woman in a gray-white dress looked at Du Xiaofu and were also secretly moved. Back when the Jinlei Tensei mansion was in the Tianhuang continent, the desolate sky leopard had sought revenge from the ancient fist sect. The two of them had also seen the purple-robed youth from afar. "Is it that kid? He seems to have many treasures on him." The middle-aged woman and the wild Gujiao looked at Du Xiaofu with a cold glint in the depths of their eyes. There was also a hint of greed in their eyes. So noisy early in the morning. How irritating. Du Xiaofu took to the air and turned a deaf ear to the endless tide of ferocious beasts below. He glanced at the middle-aged woman and the Gu condor from the corner of his eyes before lazily stretching himself. He said indifferently, "You must be that little spider and little bird. You've just ascended to the beast domain realm, so you're barely passable. Submit to me and I'll spare your lives." As Du Xiaofu spoke, the roaring beasts in the surroundings quietened down. The purple-robed youth who looked young was actually looking sideways at the Skymoon poison spider and the wild Gujiao, the two rulers of the Tianhuang continent. How domineering and overbearing was his tone. In fact, the purple-robed youth did not even look straight at the two rulers of the Tianhuang continent. This shocked all beasts. Even the desolation leopard on the desolation cliff broke out in cold sweat at this moment. The desolation leopard knew that Du Xiaofu was perverse and powerful, but that kid's tone was a little too arrogant. "Kid, you're dead for sure today." The wild Gujiao stared at Du Xiaofu and did not say anything else. Killing intent surged out of its eyes. The killing intent in its eyes was enough to prove everything. "Who do you think you are? This is the Tianhuang continent. Puny human, you're courting death." Jin Lin spoke and looked at Du Xiaofu with disdain. He had suffered a great loss back then, and now that he had someone backing him up, he could not help but feel delighted when he saw that Du Xiaofu had provoked the wild Gujiao and the Skymoon poison spider. It was equivalent to him being on the verge of death. It could be considered as revenge. In particular, when he saw the graceful figure in the distance on the desolation cliff in front of him, Jin Lin's lips curled into a perverted smile. It was as if he had a premonition that the graceful figure in front of him would be at his mercy. Today was really a good day. How dare a puny beast venerable be so presumptuous in front of the president? A sharp voice resounded. The middle-aged man who followed the zither demon, Shangguan Qi Xian, stepped out. It was not difficult for him to see that Jin Lin was only a beast venerable. How could he be worthy of the president's attention? "All right, I'll leave it to you. I'll roast a lion later." Du Xiaofu nodded at the zither demon's mount. He looked at Jin Lin and was not affected by his words. Instead, he looked like he was about to drool. Jin Lin dared to have designs on Blue Fantasy because Little Tiger had taken a liking to Blue Fantasy. Du Xiaofu, who was the most protective of his children, had naturally been unhappy with Jin Lin for a long time. If not for the fact that he had some status now and had to maintain some dignity for the sake of the golden-winged great rocks, Du Xiaofu would have killed Jin Lin immediately without hesitation. Yes, President. After receiving Du Xiaofu's tacit approval, the Zither demon's mount could not help but laugh when he thought about the roasted meat later. Who do you think you are? You're courting death. Jin Lin's face was extremely gloomy when he heard the Zither demon's mount's words and did not take him seriously at all. If he was facing the demon king, Du Xiaofu, Jin Lin would really be afraid and would not dare to do so. However, he had always been arrogant in the Tianhuang mainland and did not take the Zither demon's mount seriously. The middle-aged Zither demon's mount looked at Jin Lin and sneered. He looked straight at Jin Lin and said with some mockery, "You don't know what's good for you. Come and die." Chapter 1442. Jin Lin was completely enraged. He had never been looked down upon like this before. His battle clothes fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He's messing with your mind. Don't show your anger on your face. Don't let your anger affect your mind. It's harmful to your cultivation. That guy is also from the beast race, so he shouldn't be weak. Be careful, Jin Gu said to Jin Lin in a low voice. He didn't stop Jin Lin from attacking. The other party was provoking him in front of so many people. If he stopped Jin Lin, he would lose face. Father, I understand. Jin Lin gradually suppressed the anger in his heart. He was indeed extraordinary. As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped out. In an instant, golden runes exploded in the sky. Boom! In the next moment, a vast aura erupted. Jin Lin transformed into his original form of the golden-scaled ancient lion. His entire body was covered in golden scales, and dazzling runes exploded. It must taste good. Du Xiaofu looked at the huge golden lion and licked his lips without concealing it. His eyes were filled with a greedy look. Du Xiaofu had wanted to eat this rare golden-scaled ancient lion the last time. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance last time. This time, he didn't want to miss it. Die. At the same time, golden runes erupted from Jin Lin's original form of the golden-scaled ancient lion. They lined up and evolved. Their aura exploded, covering half the sky. In the end, they transformed into an illusory golden lion. Boom! As soon as the illusory golden lion appeared, the entire space trembled. The terrifying power caused the surrounding space to tremble. Roar! The illusory golden lion roared at the middle-aged man on Qin Mo's mount. The roar was like thunder, and the sound waves were like rolling waves. It was as if the surrounding space was going to explode. Walala, the materialized sound waves swept out in all directions. It was as if the roar could shatter the sky and kill all living things in the world. This was the golden-scaled ancient lion's innate ability, the golden lion roar. It could destroy one's primordial spirit and shatter one's mind. It was rumored that there was a powerful almighty in the golden-scaled ancient lion race. With a roar, he could shatter stars and break mountains. Roar! At this moment, under Jin Lin's golden lion roar, the surrounding savage beasts roared and trembled. Putting everything else aside, the golden-scaled ancient lion was definitely a king of the beasts with an extremely powerful bloodline. Facing the Guqin Devil's mount, Jin Lin listened to his father Jin Gu's advice and did not dare to be careless. He went all out and wanted to intimidate the heavenly desolate cliff. Die! However, at this moment, the middle-aged man who was the Guqin demon's mount was not afraid at all in the face of such a powerful force. His figure immediately charged forward with dazzling runes wrapped around his body. In the face of the terrifying golden lion roar, he completely ignored it. The latter traversed the void and waved his hand. A dazzling talisman rune arranged itself. With the power of lightning and the might of thunder, a palm print condensed in the void. It descended from the sky and slapped the head of Jin Lin's original body. Boom! That palm print interweaved into a dazzling ball of light, channeling the energy of heaven and earth, and even stirring up monstrous waves in the void. Then, it forcefully landed on Jin Lin's head, and the power of destruction poured out. Puff puff, large mouthfuls of blood were spat out from Jin Lin's huge lion mouth. His eyes shrunk until they were filled with despair and emptiness. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Crack crack, then, Jin Lin's huge and hard lion head cracked in an unstoppable manner. The huge beast body also fell from the sky like a meteorite. My Lin, Jin Gu shouted anxiously. His figure turned into a golden rainbow and charged towards the middle-aged man who was the Guqin demon's mount. This result was far beyond Jin Gu's expectations. He had misjudged. His opponent was a transcendent venerable beast. Previously, there was a mysterious aura on his body that concealed his cultivation. He could only tell that his opponent's cultivation was not weak, but he could not tell that his opponent was a transcendent venerable beast. Otherwise, why would he send Jin Lin to his death? Jin Gu naturally did not know that the Guqin demon's mount had also obtained an ancient inheritance. It had obtained great opportunities and divine powers. Its body had also been refined by the divine thunder, and it was like a tiger that had grown wings. Under the concealment of its aura, even Jin Gu could not detect it. Unfortunately, Jin Lin was only a mysterious venerable beast. How could it be a match for the Guqin demon? My son is no match for him, so why should I? Get down from here. Du Xiaofu's voice was heard just as Jin Gu pounced. He waved his hand and slapped the air in front of Jin Gu. Walala, a wave of golden light seemed to pass through space, turning into a huge handprint. It was like a small, blazing golden sun that dyed the sky. It was surrounded by mysterious runes, and accompanied by a domineering might that swept out, directly smashing into Jin Gu. Boom! Jin Lin's huge body fell to the ground, cracking the rocks on the ground. Gravel flew up and revealed a deep pit. The surrounding savage beasts roared in horror. Poor Jin Lin's scales were already cracked. His body was badly mutilated, and he was no longer breathing. He could not be more dead. He had been slapped to death by the Guqin demon's mount. Bang! Almost at the same time, Jin Gu's body shot down from the sky like lightning. He rushed into the ground and landed right beside Jin Lin's body. Gravel shot up into the sky. Half of Jin Gu's body was stuck in the rock. Cracks spread out in all directions. Puff puff, Jin Gu spat out mouthfuls of blood. His hair was messy, and he was in an extremely sorry state. His eyes were dull, as if he could not recover from the shock. At this moment, the entire world seemed to have fallen silent for a short while. Countless ferocious eyes were in a daze, and countless beast souls were shocked. The Desolation Leopard, Blue Fantasy, and the others were also stunned. It was one thing for Jin Lin to be slapped to death, but Jin Gu was a venerable beast at the peak of the Nirvana realm. Du Xiaofu had slapped him down with a single move. What kind of strength was this? The Desolation Leopard's heart trembled. He finally understood what Du Xiaofu meant when he said he would take care of everything. You overestimate yourself. You can't even withstand a single blow. Du Xiaofu looked down at Jin Gu, who was in a daze and trembling. He then ignored him. Jin Gu should be dealt with by someone who deserved to be dealt with. Du Xiaofu then looked directly at the middle-aged woman and the wild Gujiao. He said, "You, little spider, and little bird. One is poisonous, and the other is ugly. I am a very picky eater. You make it hard for me to swallow, so I can only make you submit to me. If you don't, you will suffer." His tone was very casual, and so was Du Xiaofu's expression. It was as if everything was natural. The Guqin demon smiled faintly. He was speechless. That ferocious guy was picky about food. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, he had seen that ferocious guy who did not eat. In the sky, the middle-aged woman and the wild Gu Diao stared coldly at Du Xiaofu. They were absolutely shocked. They knew of Jin Gu's strength. They had never taken him seriously, and had only used their connections. However, the purple-robed kid had actually heavily injured Jin Gu with a single slap. They understood that Du Xiaofu was not only arrogant, but also possessed absolute strength. "Kid, I'm afraid you don't have the strength." The middle-aged woman sneered. She was a beast domain expert, so she was not one to be scared. Immediately, grayish-white inscriptions shot out from her body and filled the air with black mist. As the air trembled, her body seemed to instantly swell up and reverted to her original form, the Sky Moon Spider. The Sky Moon Spider was not very large among the magical beasts. The Sky Moon Spider that had just ascended to the beast domain was only a few dozen meters long. Inscriptions in the shape of a vast moon flickered on the back of the spider's head, chest, and carapace. It had 6 pairs of chelicerae under its chest and abdomen. The chelicerae had fangs and clumps of sticky hair. The tips of the chelicerae shone with a cold, sharp light. Clearly, it was filled with a terrifying poisonous aura. It was hair-raising just by looking at it. "Brother Xiaofu, be careful of the Sky Moon Spider. Don't let the poisonous aura enter your body." The Desolation Leopard's voice rang out in Du Xiaofu's ears from afar. With that, the Desolation Leopard immediately appeared beside Du Xiaofu. The Desolation Leopard was afraid that Du Xiaofu would be at a disadvantage against the Sky Moon Spider and the Gu Condor alone. Du Xiaofu had come to help him, so he naturally could not hide behind him. The Desolation Leopard was not that kind of person. "It's fine. Leave it to me." Du Xiaofu glanced at the Sky Moon Spider and said to the Desolation Leopard. Afterwards, he paid no attention to it and actually approached the Sky Moon Spider, wanting to take a closer look. As for the poisonous aura, Du Xiaofu's body was so tough that it would not be easy for the poisonous aura to enter his body. Not to mention, Du Xiaofu knew that with the cultivation method of the golden-winged Great Peng clan and the Peng blood and lightning veins in his body, regular poisons would be useless against him. "Ku!" As the Desolation Leopard approached, the Gu Condor immediately roared. Its body instantly transformed into its original form that was close to 1,000 feet in size. It was many times larger than the Sky Moon Spider's original form. The Gu Condor's original form was that of a bird, a leopard, but not a leopard. It was an ugly beast with a single horn on its head. Its roar was like a baby's cry, but it was very ear-piercing and made one's soul uncomfortable. "It's really ugly. I can't eat it." Looking at the Gu Condor's original form, Du Xiaofu sighed. The Gu Condor's original form was definitely ugly, but its aura was definitely powerful. "Woo woo." The Sky Moon venomous spider was also roaring. Its sharp limbs, which were emitting billowing black fog and poisonous gas, danced about. The poisonous gas filled half the sky and filled the air. It immediately pounced towards Du Xiaofu, who was walking over. Walala. The poisonous aura that filled the sky surged like a storm. It was accompanied by a strange grayish-white rune. The poisonous aura made the surrounding savage beasts tremble. The Sky Moon Spider's many claws danced, twisting the void and spitting out poisonous aura. It was as sharp as a blade, binding Du Xiaofu like a cage, enveloping the space around Du Xiaofu. Chapter 1443. It's not weak at all. Raising his head slightly, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes as he looked at the Sky Moon poison spider that was surging towards him. At the same time, a golden light flashed from his feet. Sizzle sizzle, space was pierced through as sharp, icy claws pierced through space like blades, causing pitch-black cracks to appear in the surroundings. It was a terrifying sight. However, the Sky Moon poison spider soon cried out in surprise. It had discovered that the purple-robed youth had mysteriously disappeared from its range of attack. It had not even sensed when the purple-robed youth had disappeared. Sizzle, a purple-robed figure wrapped in faint golden light had mysteriously appeared in front of the Skymoon poison spider just as surprise appeared in its eyes. A faint smile appeared on that resolute and determined face, causing the hairs on its beast soul to rise for some reason. If you insist on suffering, I'll fulfill your wish. Du Xiaofu softly shouted as he thrust his hand forward. Golden light erupted, distorting space as it swept downwards like a bolt of golden lightning. It was accompanied by a vast and domineering aura, as if a supreme being was descending. Not good, the Skymoon poison spider seemed to have sensed something at this moment, causing its hairs to stand on end. That terrifying aura was just too frightening. It knew that it could not deal with it and wanted to immediately retreat. However, it was already too late. The golden light bolt had already descended halfway through the storm. Golden talisman runes condensed into a pair of wings, like a great rock flapping its wings. It seemed to be able to break through the sky, mysterious and unfathomable, preventing it from escaping. You're from the golden-winged Great Rock clan, the Skymoon poison spider was shocked. It wanted to say something, but its voice was drowned out. The golden talisman runes rushed downwards, sweeping its body away like a tornado. The monstrous black poison mist was unable to withstand a single blow as its body fell to the ground. With another strike, he slapped a Skymoon venomous spider to the ground. The surrounding ferocious beasts were completely stunned. They even forgot to roar as countless huge savage beasts trembled involuntarily. Gulp gulp, the desolation leopard hovering in the air was completely dumbfounded. Its mouth was dry as it swallowed saliva. Run! The savage Gudiao was shocked. The Skymoon poison spider could not even withstand a single blow. It did not believe that it could either, not to mention that the desolation leopard was present. It immediately fled, not daring to stay any longer. Du Xiaofu's senses probed. Even the slightest movement could not escape. How could he let the savage Gudiao escape? He was already prepared. Where do you think you're going? Du Xiaofu shouted loudly, and his figure shot out like lightning. Originally, he was the king of speed. At this moment, with the addition of rock of 10,000 miles small accomplishment, his speed was not something that a Gu Condor of initial domain could compare to. Walala, Du Xiaofu's figure pounced out, bringing along a series of afterimages as he melted into the space. The golden runes behind him surged like a tide, and he was already like a human-shaped rock spreading its wings and soaring into the sky. Just as the Gudiao's figure moved, before it could escape, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared behind it. Du Xiaofu extended his hand. His 5 fingers curled slightly as they turned into a claw that twisted the void. He grabbed the Gudiao's foot and viciously flung it downwards. At this moment, the savage Gudiao's 1,000 feet large body could no longer move. It was as if it was entangled by a mountain. In the end, its huge body involuntarily somersaulted in the air before it viciously smashed into the ground below. Bang bang bang. The 1,000 feet large Gudiao's body smashed into the ground. The beast tied below shook and many miserable cries rang out. Many unlucky savage beasts were directly smashed into meat paste. Ah! The savage Gudiao cried out miserably as it was smashed. Its voice was as ear-piercing as a baby's crying. Its body was dripping with blood. The purple-robed figure, which was so tiny in comparison, actually had the strength to move mountains and rivers. The visual impact of witnessing this scene with their own eyes was unparalleled, and it struck their souls, causing everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Boom! But in the next moment, the savage Gudiao was not ordinary. As it cried out miserably, its roar shook the heavens and the earth. It seemed as if its blood essence was burning. Its power soared as it used its extreme strength to try and escape. But it was all too late. Whether it was speed or strength, the savage Gu Jiao still did not know how abnormal the person it was facing now was. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared. Just as the savage Gu Jiao was about to turn around and escape, he waved his hand. A supreme aura spread out from his palm. With lightning flashing and thunder rumbling, silver-yellow electric arcs suddenly erupted. Roar! At this moment, the roar of a dragon, tiger, phoenix and lion could be heard from Du Xiaofu's palm. A terrifying aura erupted, causing the surrounding space to rumble and tremble. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's right palm was covered with a mystical seal. It was like the shadow of a golden-winged rock. Its entire body was golden and resplendent, with silver-yellow electric arcs. A monstrous aura spread out from it. When this monstrous aura descended, it contained an aura that all beasts could not resist. This aura came from the souls of all beasts, from within their bloodlines. Roar! At this moment, all the beasts inside and outside the heavenly desolate cliff roared. Their beast souls trembled violently, and their ferocious eyes were filled with shock. That terrifying aura was directly and forcefully made them unable to resist. Even the heavenly desolate leopard was greatly affected by that terrifying aura, causing its beast soul to tremble. It was as if the strongest of the beasts had descended. It wanted to submit, and it was difficult to resist. What kind of magical power is that? On the heavenly desolate cliff, the fourth elder, Jialo Yi, and the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, were watching the commotion from afar. They were originally watching the commotion calmly, but when Du Xiaofu's strange seal appeared, they immediately looked at each other. Under the aura that came from afar, the fourth elder and the fifth elder trembled. The aura from that strange seal was actually able to suppress the golden-winged rock. How could they not be shocked? At this moment, the most horrified one was the savage Gu Jiao. The shadow of the golden-winged rock that was accompanied by silver-yellow electric arcs descended. The beast soul in the savage Gu Jiao's mind trembled, and its entire body trembled. It was completely suppressed. Blood Soul Seal. Du Xiaofu's seal fell, and with the roars of the beasts, it landed directly on the glabella of the savage Gu Jiao, who was almost in a daze. The strange golden seal, accompanied by the supreme beast aura, turned into a ball of golden light and disappeared into the glabella of the savage Gu Jiao. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu slightly closed his eyes. Seals were formed in his hands, and runes were lingering around his body. As the seals formed, extremely strange and magical light, along with the terrifying supreme aura, fell successively on the glabella of the savage Gu Jiao. The savage Gu Jiao's huge ferocious eyes could not help but close tightly. You want to control me? Impossible, impossible. At this moment, in the mind of the savage Gu Jiao, its beast soul was roaring. That was a mini version of the savage Gu Jiao. It felt the intention of Du Xiaofu and resisted with all its strength. You are powerless to resist. Du Xiaofu's voice with a kind of pressure resounded in the mind of the savage Gu Jiao. Dazzling golden light burst out, and the golden-winged rock phantom appeared in the mind of the savage Gu Jiao. The lightning of the primordial spirit wreaked havoc, and the monstrous supreme aura swept across, directly imprisoning the savage Gu Jiao's beast soul. The savage Gu Jiao's beast soul struggled violently, trying to escape quickly, but at this moment, it could not escape at all. Beast Controlling Technique. In the outside world, Du Xiaofu's last seal was formed, and a dazzling golden light was shot into the glabella of the savage Gu Jiao. At this moment, in the mind of the savage Gu Jiao, the roars of the dragons, tigers, phoenixes, and lions reverberated, and a huge monstrous aura collapsed. The golden-winged rock phantom turned into a dazzling golden light, and instantly shot into the glabella of the savage Gu Jiao's beast soul. After struggling for a while, the savage Gu Jiao's beast soul, which was extremely resistant, gradually began to be tamed. In the outside world, Du Xiaofu's slightly closed eyes opened, and looked at the savage Gu Jiao whose eyes were tightly closed. Since the last time he succeeded in cultivating the blood soul seal, Du Xiaofu had been looking for an opportunity to try the blood-soul seal. During this period of time, he had been in the Golden-Winged Rock clan, and there was no opportunity. Now that the opportunity finally came, Du Xiaofu naturally would not miss it. At this time, Du Xiaofu was also a little nervous. According to the records in the Heavenly Spirit Record, the appearance of the blood-soul seal should be like a dragon but not a dragon, like a tiger but not a tiger. It was completely blood-red, and was completely different from the one he cultivated. So Du Xiaofu did not know how effective it would be, and only by trying it would he know. Not long after, the savage Gu Jiao's closed eyes opened. In the anticipation and slight nervousness of Du Xiaofu, it looked at Du Xiaofu with its fierce eyes, and the fierce light in its eyes had disappeared, and it became extremely docile. Its huge body stood up, and it respectfully said, "Greetings to Master." Phew! Success! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and let out a sigh of relief. Although the blood-soul seal he condensed was different from the one recorded in the Heavenly Spirit Record, it did not seem to affect its effect, and it had already controlled the savage Gu Jiao. What happened? What the hell is going on? Looking at the scene in front of them, the fierce savage Gu Jiao actually became docile and respectful in an instant. The desolate sky leopard, 4th elder Jialo Yi, 5th elder Jialo Yuantu, and the zither demon all had their jaws opened so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in. The 4th elder and the 5th elder could feel that all of this was probably related to the divine ability that Du Xiaofu had just used. But the 4th elder and the 5th elder. They also did not know that Du Xiaofu had such a divine ability that could make a monster submit in an instant. If this kind of divine ability was used without restraint, how terrifying would it be? If this kind of divine ability was used without restraint, the consequences would make the 4th elder and the 5th elder tremble in their hearts. Not good. The heavily injured Sky Moon poison spider on the ground looked at the scene that had just happened, and after a moment of daze, its hair stood on end, and its heart trembled with fear. It immediately wanted to break through the air and escape. Evil creature, where are you going? Chapter 1444. Du Xiaofu roared. How could he let an initial domain Sky Moon venomous spider go? Golden light erupted as he chased after it, stomping the spider back down to the ground with a single stomp. Such brutality left all the savage beasts dumbfounded. The result was the same. Du Xiaofu activated the blood-soul seal and began to subdue the Sky Moon venomous spider with absolute power. Jin Gu, do you still want to run? The Desolation Leopard's roar resounded through Desolation Cliff as it pounced forward. Jin Gu wanted to flee silently, but as soon as he moved, he was intercepted by the Desolation Leopard, who had been secretly locking onto him. Jin Gu was only at the peak of the Nirvana realm, and he had already been heavily injured by Du Xiaofu. Although the Desolation Leopard had expended a lot of energy to heal the Scarlet Rock, it had recovered quite a bit after consuming a large amount of spiritual herbs. Not to mention, Jin Gu was no match for the Desolation Leopard, given the difference between the Nirvana realm and the Beast Domain realm. Jin Gu used the golden-scaled primal lion's body, but in just 3 moves, he was completely ravaged by the Desolation Leopard, heavily injured, and fell to the bottom of Desolation Cliff. Spare me, Commander. I only made a mistake in a moment of folly, and now I know how to regret it. Please spare me on account of my many years of service. Jin Gu begged as he prostrated himself on the ground. His eyes were filled with fear. Jin Gu knew that he wouldn't even have a chance to escape with his beast soul. He originally thought that today would be his lucky day, but who would have thought that Du Xiaofu would suddenly appear and deal with the Sky Moon venomous spider and the Gu Jiao so easily. His son, Jin Lin, had also been killed. This feeling made him feel like he had fallen from heaven to hell. I gave you a chance on account of your many years of service, but you didn't cherish it. The Desolation Leopard said coldly with undisguised killing intent. He was not a merciful person to begin with, so he didn't hold back at all. Using his domain power, his finger landed on Jin Gu's forehead like a bolt of lightning. As the finger landed, blood spurted several meters into the air from Jin Gu's forehead. He screamed as his eyes were completely shut in fear and unwillingness. Master. The Sky Moon Venom Spider was also completely under Du Xiaofu's control. Then, like the savage Gujiao, it transformed back into its human form and stood respectfully behind Du Xiaofu. A great battle that was supposed to result in rivers of blood and corpses being strewn all over the place ended in such a way. Jin Gu was killed, and the Sky Moon Venomous Spider and Savage Gu Condor were subdued. This scene was extremely shocking. All the surrounding beasts were dumbfounded. Their bodies trembled, not knowing what to do. "Commander, I'll leave the rest to you," Du Xiaofu said to the desolate Sky Leopard. The Sky Moon Poison Spider and the Savage Gu Condor had been dealt with. The remaining matters could be dealt with by the desolate Sky Leopard. It had nothing to do with him. "Listen up. Those who submit will live, and those who resist will die." The Heavenly Desolation Leopard spoke. His voice rumbled and rushed into the clouds. It resounded inside and outside the Heavenly Desolation Cliff and spread in all directions. The beast tide trembled, the situation was hopeless, even the Sky Moon Poison Spider and Savage Chongjiao had submitted. How could the followers of the two dare to resist at this moment? "We submit." Roar, the beasts roared continuously. The dense beast tide prostrated and submitted to the ground, not daring to disobey. In Tianhuang mainland, 2 of the 3 overlords of the savage beasts had been subdued by Du Xiaofu. At this moment, the desolate Sky Leopard was the only one left and he had complete control of the entire Tianhuang mainland. Du Xiaofu had no interest in participating in the remaining matters. That was the desolate Sky Leopard's matter. However, Du Xiaofu did not stand on ceremony and dug out the mystic bones of the 2 golden-scaled ancient lions, Jin Gu and Jin Lin, to collect their blood. The mystic bones and blood of the golden-scaled ancient lions, especially those of such a level, were definitely priceless. In fact, they might not even be sold on the market. A moment later, in an empty valley with a meandering river, Du Xiaofu took out the medicinal cauldron that he had prepared at all times. After washing the bodies of Jin Gu and Jin Lin, he stewed a huge pot of lion bone soup and roasted meat. Not long after, the soup was boiling and the roasted meat was sizzling. The aroma was overwhelming. Blue Fantasy, Guqin Demon, and Guqin Demon's mount were already familiar. They had been waiting at the side, drooling. The moment Du Xiaofu said to start eating, they immediately pounced on it and wolfed it down without hesitation. Blue Fantasy and Guqin Demon were originally people who cared a lot about their image. However, in front of the roasted meat and lion bone soup, their image was completely destroyed. After living for so many years, this is the first time I've seen such delicacies in the world. After 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu had a taste, the 2 of them could no longer stop. They looked as if they had never eaten anything in their lives. The desolate Sky Leopard, Qi Yan, and even the subdued savage Chongjiao and Sky Moon Poisonous Spider were all present. They looked similar to 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu. Other than Guqin Demon and Du Xiaofu, the rest of them were also beasts. Although they were in human form, their stomachs were like bottomless pits. After a few hours, Du Xiaofu was also in a flurry. The 2 huge golden-scaled ancient lions were eaten up by these few people. In the end, only a pile of bones was left. Only then did they burp and spit out rays of light from their mouths. Their bodies were accompanied by energy waves. The flesh of demonic beasts contained energy, especially Jin Gu. That was a golden-scaled ancient lion at the peak of the Nirvana realm. The energy contained in its flesh was no small matter. Qi Yan and Qi Yan's cultivation was not high. Blue Fantasy, Guqin Demon's mount, and Guqin Demon's cultivation were not as high as Jin Gu's. At this moment, all of them benefited greatly. They sat down cross-legged and began to refine the energy in their bodies. So full, Du Xiaofu burped, and it seemed like he was about to spit out light from his mouth. He patted his round belly, and in the end, he sat down cross-legged in satisfaction. Using the golden-winged great ping bird technique, he began to refine the energy he had obtained from the meat soup. The taste is not bad. The fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, lazily leaned against a rock. He picked up a small branch from the ground and used it as a toothpick to pick the pieces of meat between his teeth. They only wanted to satisfy their appetites. The energy contained in the flesh and blood was negligible to them. Yes, the taste is not bad. If I had known earlier, I would have let Xiaofu show off his cooking skills. The fourth elder, Jialo Yi, had a satisfied face. He smiled and said proudly, "Unfortunately, those old fellows in the clan don't have the fortune to taste this skill." At night, the moonlight shone in the sky. In the night sky, the light of the valley flickered. The energy of heaven and earth fluctuated, bringing with it a loud noise. Qi Yan and Qi Yan directly broke through to the next level. They were very happy. Blue Fantasy, the Zither Devil, and the Zither Devil's mount didn't directly break through. However, after they stopped and adjusted their breathing, they were in high spirits. Their eyes were smiling. They all benefited a lot. Tomorrow morning, we will return to the central continent. Du Xiaofu stood up. Under the moonlight, his resolute face revealed a fierce look. He looked at the night sky. His clear eyes emitted a golden light. His eyes were frightening. Early in the morning, purplish-red flames rose from the eastern horizon, illuminating the dim sky. Behind the bright morning clouds, it was as if a boundless blue silk had been stretched out, illuminating the heavenly desolate cliff with mottled scales that flickered with light. On the desolate heaven cliff, the desolate heaven leopard bid farewell to Du Xiaofu and said, "Little brother Xiaofu, I won't say too much. I can't thank you enough for your kindness. Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy are in your care. If you need help, send someone to the desolate heaven cliff. I, your old brother, will not frown even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire. Commander, there's no need to be so polite." Du Xiaofu smiled. He waved his sleeves and turned around. Golden light flickered under his feet and he disappeared into the air like a golden rainbow. Looking at the disappearing figures, the desolate heaven leopard's eyes flickered for a long time. Then, he murmured softly, "Demon King Du Xiaofu. It won't be long before he becomes the most famous person in the world." The wormhole outside the desolate heaven city was originally controlled by the sky moon venomous spider and the wild goo condor. Now that the two beasts had been subdued by the blood-soul seal that Du Xiaofu had set up, it was naturally easy for them to enter the wormhole. This time, although he had subdued the sky moon venomous spider and the wild goo condor with the blood-soul seal, Du Xiaofu had only brought the two beasts. He hadn't brought the many savage beast experts who had followed the two beasts with him. There was a legend in the desolate heaven mainland that there was an expert protecting these demonic beast descendants who had followed the Qilin clan since ancient times. However, once they left, they would no longer protect them. Du Xiaofu didn't know whether the legend was true or not. However, since even the fourth elder had heard of the legend, it couldn't be a groundless rumor. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was also afraid of bringing too many savage beast experts with him. In case he offended something, the sky moon venomous spider and the wild goo condor were enough. Middle ground, it's been a long time since we last met. I'm back. In front of the wormhole, Du Xiaofu stared at the misty void in front of him. Runes flashed everywhere, resembling stars. Du Xiaofu took a step forward and entered. Instantly, he felt as though he was shuttling through spacetime. The fourth elder, the fifth elder, the Guqin demon and the others followed him into the wormhole. In the middle ground, with the desolate country's world society no longer attacking, the bloody storm had temporarily subsided. The desolate country's world society was recuperating. The Great Luan sect, the Sky Snake sect, and the Spirit Sky Valley seemed to be wary of each other and didn't dare to attack the desolate country's world society. On the other hand, the small and medium-sized factions were afraid that the desolate country's world society would attack again and were uneasy. Night fell and the moon was dim. In the peaceful Great Luan sect, a strange aura suddenly filled the night sky. What's happening? What a strange aura. It has a strong suppressive aura. In the Great Luan sect, many disciples were affected. They walked out of their caves and courtyards and looked up at the sky in shock. In the night sky, dark clouds gathered and covered the moon. Wind blew and clouds surged in the sky, accompanied by an extremely strange aura that spread out. The endless strange aura spread out along with the suppressive aura, causing the disciples of the Great Luan sect to tremble in fear. Boom! Rumble. Not long after, a thunderous sound resounded in the night sky, causing the sky to tremble and the ground to tremble. This is a heaven and earth vision. High up in the sky, in the Great Luan sect, many old figures filled the sky with an imposing aura. Chapter 1445. It should be the reincarnation of the saint. He has finally succeeded. Our Great Luan sect is going to rise. Many old figures that had quietly appeared in the sky seemed to have thought of something at the same time. Their eyes suddenly lit up, and their bodies trembled. Boom! The dark clouds in the sky became denser, and the pressure became stronger. That pressure seemed to come from the depths of heaven and earth. That pressure was too terrifying, and it shook the space. Gradually, many disciples of the Great Luan sect knelt on the ground. Walala, a bright sacred light rose from somewhere in the Great Luan sect, illuminating the entire Great Luan sect like the sun. That terrifying pressure cracked the dark clouds, and heaven and earth trembled. Then, a tall figure appeared in the sky above the bright sacred light. That figure stood tall and straight in the air. He wore a crimson robe and had golden hair. His eyes were dazzling, and above his head, 6 divine fire-like halos connected the heavens and the earth. An unparalleled supreme pressure descended from the heavens and the earth. Dong! Dong! That pressure was too strong, and it came from heaven and earth. Those below the domain realm of the Great Luan sect were unable to resist it. All the disciples' souls trembled, and they knelt on the ground involuntarily as if they were worshipping a supreme being. It is indeed the nirvana of a supreme being. He has succeeded in his reincarnation. Our Great Luan sect is going to rise. Those old figures in the sky were extremely excited. They knew best what the nirvana of a supreme being represented. It was the most terrifying existence in heaven and earth, and it was an existence that surpassed all sky prides. In the whole of Kyushu, no one had been able to reach such a level for thousands of years. The commotion didn't last for long, and it gradually dissipated. Dongli Chi Huang stood quietly in the sky, and his red robe and golden hair fluttered in the wind. He exuded the aura of a supreme being. After reincarnation, I will be the supreme being. From now on, I, Kyushu, will be the supreme being. Under everyone's gaze, Dongli Chi Huang's bright divine soul shot into the sky like rainbow-colored lightning, shaking the night sky. A terrifying pressure was released from the red robe, and it made all the disciples of the Great Luan sect tremble. Greetings, Saint! Countless disciples knelt down, and their voices echoed in the night sky. Congratulations, brother-in-law. In the crowd, the new sect leader of the Great Luan sect, Ching Chao, was also trembling as he knelt down. He looked at the figure in the sky with a face full of smiles. After a while, in a courtyard of the Great Will sect, Dongli Chi Huang stood quietly. The radiance of the pearl was hazy, and his red robe and golden hair were fluctuating. Saint, as you expected, many forces are in a state of panic. They have all joined our Great Luan sect. The desolate country's world society has also filled their stomachs. They can't eat anymore. A middle-aged man said to Dongli Chi Huang in awe. Inform Kyushu that I have achieved nirvana. Inform the Spirit Sky Valley and the Sky Snake sect to mobilize people and finish off the desolate country's world society as soon as possible. I want to completely eradicate the desolate country's world society. Dongli Chihuang sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, he stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were full of pride as he said, I have reincarnated and cultivated again. Now, I have achieved nirvana. It won't be long before I return to the peak again. Fireflies can no longer compete with me. Once the final plan is carried out smoothly, I will be the supreme being in this world. In the early morning, in the ancient heaven sect, the blue sky was against the tall mountains. Under the morning sun, the misty white clouds swam between the mountains. Wisps of clouds curled around the mountainside, and it was dreamy. In the depths of the mountains, in a valley, the space fluctuated. The light was dazzling, and runes flickered. Finally, a space tunnel appeared. In the misty and empty space, runes flickered everywhere like twinkling stars. Someone has come to the ancient heaven sect. In the valley, many disciples and elders of the ancient heaven sect looked at the space tunnel. The wormhole was rarely opened. It was the ancient heaven sect's long-distance passage, and it was usually guarded by experts. Swoosh! 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 Several figures flew out of the space tunnel and landed in the valley. They were Du Xiaofu, Guqin Devil, the fourth elder, and the others. Master, I'm back. Looking around, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath, and a smile appeared on his face. It was a familiar place. Am I seeing things? Is that Master's Uncle Du? Oh my God, that's Master's Uncle Du. Master's Uncle Du is back. The surprised disciples of the ancient heaven sect immediately recognized Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, are you really back? An elder came forward. His old face was stunned, and then he was pleasantly surprised. He was an elder of the ancient heaven sect, and he had been guarding the wormhole recently. Elder, I'm back. How is the Manchu? Du Xiaofu smiled. Seeing many familiar faces, he felt like he had returned home after crossing the ocean. The ancient heaven sect was one of the places where Du Xiaofu trusted the most. It's good that you're back. Everything is fine in the Manchu. The elder nodded happily. Oh, so there are old acquaintances who are still alive. Suddenly, the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, looked at the sky and smiled. His voice shook the void. Jialo Yuantu, Jialo Yi, what are you two doing in my ancient heaven sect? Do you want to settle old scores? An old voice came from the sky. It was not difficult to tell from the voice that it was full of shock and surprise. I knew that you must have something to do with what happened back then. You must have a part in it. Jialo Yi looked at the sky and said, we need to have a good chat. Yes, we need to have a good chat with that guy. He must have schemed against us back then. Jialo Yuantu's face was gloomy, as if he had suffered a small loss back then. Whoosh whoosh, as his voice fell, Jialo Yi and Jialo Yuantu turned into streaks of golden light and soared into the sky. Elders, the ancient heaven sect is my sect. Du Xiaofu said. It seemed that the two elders had acquaintances in the ancient heaven sect. If the fourth elder and the fifth elder had any conflicts with the ancient heaven sect, it would not be easy to deal with it. He knew the tempers of the two elders very well. Seeing the two mysterious elders disappear in the sky, the elder of the ancient heaven sect was also surprised. He then looked at Du Xiaofu and asked, Xiaofu, did you just return to the central continent? Du Xiaofu nodded and chose to return to the ancient heaven sect through the wormhole above the Tianhuang continent. It seems like you still don't know about the many things that have happened in the central state in the past few years that you left. Especially recently, many things have happened in the central state that are related to your world assembly. The old man looked at Du Xiaofu and his face gradually darkened. Du Xiaofu's face immediately changed when he heard that. He asked, Elder, what happened in the desolate country? You should ask the sect master for the details. I've been in the Manchu all this time, so I don't know too much, the elder said to Du Xiaofu. Farewell, elder. Du Xiaofu was worried. He immediately shot out and disappeared in a flash. The Guqin demon, Gu Jiao, and the others followed him. What a powerful aura. I wonder what level this guy has reached in the past few years. The elder's eyes were a little dazed. When he faced Du Xiaofu just now, he felt a huge invisible aura that made his heart tremble. He had a feeling that he wanted to kneel down. After a while, the news of Du Xiaofu's return to the Ancient Heaven sect swept through the Ancient Heaven sect like a storm. Have you heard? Junior Master Du is back. Is it true? Junior Master Du is finally back. I knew that the devil religion and the divine light court couldn't do anything to Junior Master Du. It can't be wrong. I saw Junior Master Du go to the main hall with my own eyes. Junior Master Du is back. With Junior Master Du's temper, wouldn't the Great Will sect, Spirit Sky Valley, and Sky Snake sect be in big trouble? Disciples walked out of the Ancient Heaven sect and gathered in the various squares. They hoped to see the purple-robed youth that they had not seen for a long time today. He was a legend in the Ancient Heaven sect. It could be said that there was almost no one like him in the Ancient Heaven sect. In the main hall of the Ancient Heaven sect, Du Xiaofu learned about what had happened in the central continent in the past few years from his senior brother Sima Taxing. When he learned that the evil purifying alliance led by the Great Will sect, Sky Snake sect, and Spirit Sky Valley had finally stepped into the central continent's long river, Du Xiaofu's face was expressionless. Deep in his clear eyes, golden light began to flicker. For some reason, the temperature in the main hall became cold. Later, your sister Du Xiaojing appeared and killed 6 of them who had just reached the domain realm, causing them to suffer a lot. However, they probably won't give up so easily. They may have some ulterior motives. Sima Taxing looked at the purple-robed youth that had suddenly appeared in front of him today and was not surprised. In his heart, this guy would come back sooner or later. However, Sima Taxing was a little surprised when he secretly spied on the aura of the purple-robed youth in front of him at this moment. At this moment, the aura of this guy was so unfathomable that he could not detect any trace of it. The invisible aura made him palpitate for no reason. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes slightly and calculated the time. It seemed that Xiaojing had been to the central continent before going to the golden-winged Great Rock clan. However, she did not mention the central continent to the golden-winged Great Rock clan. Otherwise, Sister Kai Ling would have told him. Don't worry too much. The desolate country will not suffer a great loss. Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Dai Xingyu, Ouyang Shuang, and Yi Piaoling will come back and cause the Great Will sect to suffer a great loss. Sima Taxing looked at Du Xiaofu's expression and comforted Du Xiaofu. Phew. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling slightly, and said to Sima Taxing, Senior brother, I have to go back to the Stone City immediately. You have to be careful of the Divine Light Court. If they know that you have come back, they will take action. Sima Taxing nodded and reminded Du Xiaofu to pay attention to the people of the Divine Light Court. It seems that I can only settle the score with the Divine Light Court later. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes slightly, his clear eyes shining with a golden light. He did not take the Divine Light Court seriously. Chapter 1446. Xiaofu, are you really back? Someone barged into the main hall. It was Elder Gu Qingyang. When he saw the purple-robed young man, Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes were brimming with tears of excitement. In an instant, his sage-like aura was gone. It's good that you're back. I know you're fine. I'm useless and couldn't protect you. Elder Gu Qingyang blamed himself. His 2 front teeth protruded out of his mouth like a rabbit's, making people want to laugh. But looking at the old man in front of him, he seemed to have aged 10 years in these years. Du Xiaofu felt a little sad. His master must be worried about him. His gloomy expression dissipated a lot. He bowed and said, "Disciple is guilty. I shouldn't have made master worry. Silly boy, it's good that you're fine. Nothing is better than that. Just stay in the ancient heaven sect and cultivate hard. With your talent, you'll become an expert in this world sooner or later. At that time, master will accompany you to find those bastards for revenge." Elder Gu Qingyang said. Seeing his precious disciple return, he was very happy. He had been worried all these years, and now he was finally relieved. "Don't worry, master. Your disciple won't let you lose face," Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Looking at the old man in front of him, his heart was filled with warmth. After a while, a huge demon condor appeared in the ancient heaven sect. Its body was dazzling, and its feathers were shining brightly. That was the Qin Devil's mount. It carried Du Xiaofu, 4th Elder Jialo Yi, 5th Elder Jialo Yuan-tu, Wild Condor, and the others. It flapped its wings and swept across, bringing along a terrifying storm. That's martial Uncle Du. He should have returned to the desolate country. In the ancient heaven sect, the crowd was in an uproar. Many people raised their heads, revealing a shocked expression. They were secretly discussing. After the news of the demon king Du Xiaofu's return spread out, they were afraid that it would definitely cause huge waves in the central continent. It wasn't hard to know that with the demon king Du Xiaofu's personality, the Great Luan sect would definitely be waiting for revenge. The auras of the people around the kid are so strong. There are at least 2 of them from the beast region. Sima Taxing's deep eyes rippled in front of the abyss on the mountain peak. He could sense that there were 2 beast domain experts by Du Xiaofu's side. "Sect Master, now that Xiaofu has returned, I'm afraid that the Divine Light Court and the Devil Religion won't stay quiet. Ask the Manchu to send experts to protect him." Elder Gu Qingyang was worried that the Divine Light Court and the Devil Religion would find trouble with his disciple. "Martial uncle, you don't have to worry. The ancestors of the Manchu have already sent word." Sima Taxing looked at Gu Qingyang, his glass-like eyes trembling a little. He said, "The ancestors of the Manchu have said that no one above the Kyushu can touch that kid. The central continent will also change." The distance from the central continent to the stone city was not close, but the Guqin demon's mount was also extremely fast. After crossing the central continent's long river, Du Xiaofu looked down from the sky. This was the Desolate Nations World Assembly. The last war did not affect the Desolate Nations World Assembly. The people were still living and working in peace. Only then did he feel relieved. Early in the morning, in the center of the vast stone city, a dazzling palace flickered with golden light. It was incomparably huge and spread out in all directions. From afar, an oppressive aura filled the air. The energy of heaven and earth was also very rich. Whoosh, a huge demon eagle whistled through the air like a large cloud. Its aura was shocking as it spread its wings. Its feathers flickered with light, distorting the void. A powerful demon beast has arrived. Within the stone city, a crowd rushed out. However, they did not find it too strange. Over the years, the demon beasts of the Heavenly Beast Hall often appeared in the sky above the stone city. The residents of the stone city were already used to it. "No, that's the Rock Emperor. The Rock Emperor is back." However, someone immediately recognized Du Xiaofu on the huge demon eagle. That purple-robed youth was none other than the Rock Emperor. "Oh my God, it's really the Rock Emperor. Greetings to the Rock Emperor." Instantly, within the stone city, the crowd knelt down in excitement. Their voices resounded through the sky. Whoosh whoosh, within the palace, figures flew out one after another. Their gazes were fixed on the purple-robed youth on the back of the demon eagle in the sky. They trembled in surprise. "Greetings to the president. Greetings to the palace lord. Waves of voices reverberated like thunder in the stone city. Xiaofu. Brother. Many figures turned into lightning and appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. They were Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoman, and others. Brother, are you really back? I missed you so much. Du Xiaoqing pulled Du Xiaofu intimately. Her beautiful face was full of smiles. She was extremely happy. Du Xiaoyao's golden robe fluttered slightly. Her golden eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu. She seemed to have discovered something and was very surprised. A treasure land. This is definitely a treasure land. Guqin Demon, 4th Elder Jialo Yi, and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu were all staring at the desolate country. Multicolored light shone from the sky and the surrounding energy was oppressive. It was definitely not an ordinary place. It's good that you're back safely. Ouyang Shuang spoke. She looked at the purple-robed youth with her big and beautiful eyes. Yi Zijin didn't say anything. She just looked at the purple-robed youth with misty eyes. Brother Xiaofu. A group of juniors of the Du family also flew into the air and surrounded him. They were very affectionate and worshipful. Is he the president? The 18 celestial guards stood to the side. Many young people looked at him curiously. Kid, you're finally back. Another group of people walked over. The one in front was the prodigy of the sacred array, Zhen Qingchen. Behind him were Master Apothecary Yi Wuming, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong, and the other elders of the Du family. They were all happy and excited. Brother Qin Chen, Master Yi, Uncle, Second Uncle. Du Xiaofu looked at the familiar figures in front of him, and a smile appeared on his face. Who are these people? Zhen Qingchen looked at 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu. He also noticed the savage condor and sky moon poisonous spider. These two are also my elders. Du Xiaofu said, but his voice had already reached Zhen Qingchuan's ears. He told Zhen Qingchen the identities of Jialo Yi and Jialo Yuantu. Hearing this, Zhen Qingchuan's inverted triangular eyes directly stared until they were perfectly round, revealing a bright light. Greetings to the two elders. This one is Zhen Qingchen, this kid's sworn brother. After recovering from his shock, Zhen Qingchen immediately stepped forward and bowed respectfully to Jialo Yi and Jialo Yuantu. The 4th and 5th elders of the golden-winged Great Peng Bird clan. No matter how proud Zhen Qingchen was, at this moment, he was in awe. Your soul power seems to be good. Elder Jialo Yuantu and Elder Jialo Yi both nodded. Seeing how respectful Zhen Qingchen was towards the two old men, Du Xiaoman, Du Xiaoqing, and the others couldn't help but re-evaluate Elder Jialo Yi and Zhen Qingchen. This appearance is not bad. Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoyao's human appearance and curled his lips. But when he felt Du Xiaoyao's aura, his eyes trembled slightly, revealing absolute surprise. Of course, I'm better looking than you anyway. Du Xiaoyao looked at Du Xiaofu and raised her golden spirit eyes. You've also reached that level, what's there to be surprised about? Let's go back and talk. Don't stand here. Du Zhenwu said. Seeing Du Xiaofu return safely, those unfavorable rumors over the years naturally no longer believed. His voice trembled a little. Finally, there was no need to worry anymore. The Rock Emperor is back. Brother Xiaofu is back. A moment later, inside and outside the stone city and the Du family, it was bustling with noise and excitement. They rushed to tell each other, as if a great joyous event had happened. A moment later, after settling down 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu, Du Xiaofu brought Guqin Demon to the main hall of the palace. The rich imperial chief fluctuated in the palace, gathering the country's fate. Over the years, with the expansion of the barren country's territory, the citizens lived in peace and contentment, and the imperial qi in the palace became more and more abundant. Although we didn't suffer any losses in that battle, Xiao Jing came and even killed 6 experts of the domain realm, including the Great Luan sect. However, our desolate country's army and world society's disciples have suffered heavy losses in the blood battle. Many of our experts have perished. Hun Xia and Shou Sha have been captured. I'm afraid that they have met with misfortune. Sister Yorua has also been severely injured by the Great Luan sect. Her life is hanging by a thread. Even Yao Lao can't do anything about it. In the main hall of the palace, Du Xiaoman roughly told Du Xiaofu the current situation. Everyone looked at Du Xiaofu, knowing Du Xiaofu's temper. They were waiting for Du Xiaofu to fly into a rage and issue an order. However, to everyone's surprise, Du Xiaofu didn't fly into a rage, nor did he issue an order. He only looked at the familiar faces in the main hall and said, "It's good that everyone is fine." Seeing Du Xiaofu's reaction, everyone was secretly puzzled. During this period, we have settled many blood debts, but we still don't have the strength to find the main culprits. Du Yunlong said, clenching his fists, and his aura was fierce and bloody. During this period, the barren country and the world society's army had swept through many empires and forces, but they knew very well that it wasn't enough to face the main culprits of the Great Luan sect, Spirit Sky Valley, and Sky Snake sect. Du Xiaofu just listened, and his expression didn't change much. He then asked, "What about Phantom?" Sister Phantom has been in seclusion for a while. She might be able to come out in a few days. Du Xiaoman said to Du Xiaofu. She also felt that her third brother didn't seem to be himself today. "Xiaofu, how have you been all these years?" Du Zhenwu interrupted the atmosphere in the main hall and asked with concern. "I'm fine. I've made everyone worry." Du Xiaofu said apologetically. It wasn't hard to understand how worried everyone was for him all these years. "It's good that you're fine. As long as you're here, the barren country and the world society will still exist. The Du family will still exist." Du Zhixiong said to Du Xiaofu. "Everyone, don't worry too much." After leaving these words, Du Xiaofu took the lead and left the main hall. Everyone in the main hall looked at each other in confusion. Martial God of the World, Group Number, 4771075565. World Society, Group Number, 250118865. Little you will occasionally appear in these two groups. Chapter 1447. Soon after, Du Xiaofu returned to the courtyard where he lived with his drunkard father. Even when Du Xiaofu was not around, the courtyard still retained its original appearance. From his uncle, Du Xiaofu learned that his younger sister, Xiao Jing, had also come to this courtyard and stayed for a long time. "Xiao Jing, you're finally back." In the courtyard, Du Xiaofu softly muttered to himself. It was as if he could still feel the aura that had yet to dissipate. After a while, Du Xiaofu went to look at the grass of immortality and dark insight grass with interest. Outside the Du family, runes filled the air and multicolored light soared into the sky. The heaven and earth energy gathered and the entire stone city was nurtured into a land of treasures. In just a few short years, the heaven and earth spirit chi in the stone city was already comparable to those enormous sects and ancient great sections. From this, one could see how abnormal the grass of immortality and dark insight grass were. Brother Xiaofu. Uncle Xiaofu. Many of the Du family's younger generation gathered together and found Du Xiaofu. They were like followers. Some of the children who were only a few years old had to call Du Xiaofu uncle. They had heard about Du Xiaofu since they were young. He was a legendary existence in their hearts. At this moment, they stared at him and raised their heads in curiosity. There were also some children who had snot flowing from their noses. However, each of them looked dignified with purple lightning flickering in the depths of their eyes. The Du family was no longer the same as before. These younger generations had been nurtured since they were young. In addition to the awakening of the Du family's lightning martial vein, they were already exceptionally outstanding at such a young age. Let's go. Uncle will bring you to the back of the mountain to play. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. With a sweep of the long sleeve of his purple robe, he instantly became the king of the children. He led a group of little brats, followed by quite a few teenage boys and girls, and entered the back of the mountain in a grandiose manner. In the past, Du Xiaofu and Fu Yibai fiddled around the back of the mountain. They climbed trees to dig out bird nests, caught fish in the water, and captured beasts on the mountain. Now, Du Xiaofu brought a group of children up the mountain. It was as if the entire back of the mountain was about to be overturned. These children were not ordinary children. Even those who still had snot flowing from their noses had the terrifying strength to smash boulders and pull trees with their fists. Children, go and catch some beasts. Uncle will roast meat for you. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth, completely mixing with this group of little brats. Rumble, oh whoa, as soon as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the wild beasts roared all over the mountain. They screamed and ran in all directions. The rumbling sound resounded through the entire mountain, as if the entire mountain was about to be overturned. I want to eat that big bird. A little girl with snot running down her nose picked up a rock with her chubby little hand and threw it into the air with all her might. A huge bird with a wingspan of several meters was knocked unconscious by the rock and fell to the ground. Roar, a black pig that was several zhang in size, which was a demonic beast, was lifted into the air by a few 5- or 6-year-old children. Bang bang. The black pig finally smashed into the ground, causing gravel to fly everywhere and the ground to tremble. After a few rounds, it was actually thrown to its death by the few brats. With the current density of heaven and earth spirit chi in the stone city, the back of the Du family's mountain had already attracted many spiritual birds and beasts. However, at this moment, they were being tossed around by these children. They roared and ran away when they saw those brats. Not long after, the group of brats carried many demonic beasts and birds and placed them in front of Du Xiaofu as if they were presenting treasures. Good, I'll roast some meat for you guys. Du Xiaofu smiled and ordered everyone to remove the fur and skin. Then, he started to roast the meat with the group of brats surrounding him. The commotion at the back of the mountain also attracted everyone's attention. It also attracted Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoman, Yi Zijin, Ouyang Shuang, and the others. They all looked at the scene in astonishment from afar. What is this guy trying to do? Could it be that he received some kind of shock outside and became stupid? Ouyang Shuang leaned against a big tree and looked at Du Xiaofu, who was surrounded by a group of brats. Her big eyes and beautiful eyes became more and more puzzled. It's a little strange, but he should know what's going on, Yi Zijin said. It smells so good, I want to eat some too. Du Xiaoqing did not care. She had already smelled the fragrance of the meat and immediately ran over. After a while, the fragrance of the meat filled the air. The group of brats ate heartily and cried out loudly. In the end, Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaoman, and Yi Zijin could not hold back. Although they were a little embarrassed to snatch the meat from the brats, they could not resist the fragrance of the meat. In the blink of an eye, it was already dusk. The sun was setting in the west, and the curtain of night gradually fell. The group of brats had already eaten until their stomachs were round and round. They could not even walk, and all of them were burping. Big sister, call all the people in the family who have not reached the foundation establishment stage to come to the back of the mountain. Du Xiaofu patted his dusty robe and said to Yi Zijin, also call the Yi and Bai families, as well as the descendants of the Huang country's royal family who have not reached the foundation establishment stage. If there are any outstanding juniors in the Shi city, bring them over too. After a while, Du Zhenwu and Du Zhixiong brought many young men and women to the back of the mountain of the Du family. Almost all of these young men and women were called out while they were in seclusion. Most of the Du family's descendants, who were the main characters, had already been brought to the back of the mountain by Du Xiaofu. There were also some outstanding young men and women from the Shi city who were about to cultivate at night. They were directly brought to the palace by the people sent by the Du family. When these young men and women entered the back of the mountain of the Du family, they were all very nervous. However, when they saw the Rock Emperor and the super experts who usually appeared in and out of the palace, their blood boiled. Not long after, Yi Baolin, Bai Jiru, and some of the Huang country's royal family personally brought many of their descendants to the back of the mountain of the Du family. What is the president doing? Is Xiaofu going to help those young ones reach the foundation establishment stage? The commotion attracted the attention of the experts from the Du family and the world society, and they all went to the back of the mountain. Even Zhenqing Chun, Master Apothecary, Yi Wuming, Yi Piaoling, Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Li Shui, and the others gathered at the back of the mountain. 4th Elder Jialo Yi, 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu, Guqin Demon, and the others had also appeared at the back of the mountain of the Du family. They were sizing up the Du family's juniors with interest. Rumble. After a while, the large cauldrons rumbled and emitted bursts of rumbling sounds. Roar. The roars of demonic beasts could be heard from the large cauldrons, as if they were trying to open the cauldrons. Phantoms of ferocious beasts appeared. All of them were demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking. They roared as if they were about to rush out and soar into the sky. The terrifying aura and roars were deafening and resounded throughout the stone city. The surrounding people were dumbfounded and shocked. The large cauldrons were densely packed. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had dripped the blood essence of demonic beasts into them. Even the blood essence of Guqin Demon's Mount, Savage Condor, and Sky Moon Venomous Spider were not spared by Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu's goal at this moment was to help the Stone City's juniors who had yet to build their foundations. For the Du family, the foundation establishment pill and the like were already extremely common. The blood essence of these demonic beasts was at least of the honorable realm on the heavenly beast ranking. The large cauldrons rumbled and runes soared into the sky. The energy fluctuations were so intense that it almost froze the space. It was ferocious and mysterious. At this moment, if the 9 great forces of the middle ground were here, their eyes would be red with envy. Not to mention the central continent, even in the entire 9 continents, there was no power that could take out so much blood essence of demonic beasts on the heavenly beast list. Moreover, it was at least the blood essence of demonic beasts of the revered realm and above to help their juniors build their foundation. If this was in the 9 great forces, only the top disciples would have such qualifications and opportunities. Now, in front of Du Xiaofu, all the juniors in the Stone City who had yet to build their foundations had such qualifications and opportunities. It's all the blood essence of demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking. All of them. We're rich. These little guys have such great opportunities. Due to the influence of the Du family, Yi Baolin and the other experts of the Du family had also widened their horizons. At this moment, seeing the roaring shadows and knowing the origin of the blood essence, they couldn't help but tremble with excitement. Oh my God, just how much of this terrifying blood essence did the president get? Golden-scaled ancient lion, savage condor, desolated sky leopard, and silver blood leopard king. Damn, is that a phoenix? No, it's a 9-headed phoenix. Is that a white tiger? Not exactly, but it's close. Oh my God, there's also an ancient heavenly bear. Among the 18 heavenly guards, Mo Qianshuan, Wen Yichen, Mu Ruobai, and the others were all flabbergasted. They couldn't help but gasp. Any of the demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking was an absolutely terrifying existence. It's very painful to build one's foundation. The more powerful the demonic beast's blood essence is, the more painful it will be. Are you scared? Du Xiaofu looked at the juniors of the various large clans on the back of the mountain. His voice reverberated. Uncle Xiaofu, we're not scared. The group of brats from the Du family were the first to speak. They knew that the stronger the demonic beast's blood essence was, the more beneficial it would be for building one's foundation. With this as the spirit of their veins, how powerful would they be in the future? Rock Emperor, we're not scared either. In the future, we want to become as strong as the Rock Emperor. What's there to be afraid of? The youths of the various large clans were unwilling to be left behind and responded loudly. Not scared, then let's begin. Du Xiaofu smiled maliciously and waved his hand to signal for them to begin. Plop, plop, immediately, the men and women separated. The little guys were like pebbles as they threw themselves into the large cauldron. They began to use the demonic beast's blood essence to build their foundation and condense their own powerful veins. Du Lan, Du Xiaoba, Du Dazhuang, Du Xiaozhuang, and that brat of yours. That's right, you little fatty. And you, and you, brat, come here. Du Xiaofu called out to the brats of the Du family and the disciples of the Yi, Bai, and Qin families. He said, do you dare to be more painful than the others? Second uncle, I'm not scared of pain. A kid with snot raised his little head and said affirmatively to Du Xiaofu. His eyes flickered with lightning. My apologies, everyone. I've been updating 12,000 words every day for the past few days. I'm really tired. I went to bed yesterday afternoon after updating the 3rd chapter. I overslept and only woke up at 2 in the morning. Now that I'm making up for it, there must be some brothers and sisters waiting for the 4th chapter yesterday. Chapter 1448. He was Tyrant Du, the one who ate the most barbecued meat in the afternoon. He looked to be 4 or 5 years old and spoke with a childish voice. However, he carried a few demon pigs back by himself. We're not afraid either. The remaining boys and girls all nodded their heads in affirmation. Stone City was originally a place that revered martial arts. They, who grew up in Stone City, were not spoiled at all. That's good. Du Xiaofu smiled and was very satisfied. He prepared a few more cauldrons. Du Xiaofu handed the girls to Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, and Yi Zijin. The blood essence of demonic beasts that Du Xiaofu had used were different from the ones he had selected. The last demon blood essence that was used was the purest Ping blood that Du Xiaofu asked Jialo Jueo, Jialo Juekong, and the others before returning from the Golden Rock clan. This was no ordinary Ping blood. Jialo Juekong, Jialo Jueo, and the others were all peak existences in the Golden Rock clan. Chirp chirp, the Golden Rock's shadow roared, and the surrounding beasts had to prostrate themselves. Golden Rock's blood essence, heavens, this is going to torture the ancient sects and huge sects in Kyushu to death. Qi Guiyu, Qian Ling, Yang Yiji, Yuan Hanli, and the others were all completely shocked. Even the blood essence of the golden winged Peng was used to refine one's body. In the entire 9 continents, which sect would be able to take it out? If anyone compared to the Du family who used demon blood essence to refine their foundation, they were definitely looking for trouble. Chirp chirp, at this moment, Zhen Qingchun, Master Apothecary Yi Wuming, Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others didn't say anything. They only looked at the roars of the beasts on the back mountain. The roars shook the night sky, the runes shone brightly, and the shadows of countless beasts on the heavenly beast list appeared. Their throats were dry, and they swallowed their saliva. It hurts, it hurts. Father, mother, I'm going to die from the pain. Not long after, the entire mountain was filled with the miserable cries of devilish children. The pain of the foundation establishment baptism and body tempering was definitely not ordinary. Any type of demonic beast's blood essence was extremely terrifying. Especially the group of brats from the Du family. They finally understood why their uncle Xiaofu made them eat so much meat during the day. It turned out that it was hellish torture at night. However, even though all of the devilish brats were screaming miserably, they still stubbornly held on, clenching their teeth as they resisted. At this moment, the one who was in the most miserable state was Du Xiaoba. The blood essence that Du Xiaofu gave to this milk baby was none other than the blood essence of the lesser sovereign, Nirvana Jialo Jueyu. It went without saying just how terrifying Jialo Jueyu's blood essence was. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's expression was also extremely solemn. He stared with all his attention, fearing that Du Xiaoba would not be able to resist. However, Du Xiaofu was very clear in his heart that once this milk baby was able to withstand the baptism of Jialo Jueyu's blood essence and condense his own meridian spirit, his future could be imagined. He would be able to do whatever he wanted in the entire 9 regions. Hold on. At this moment, Du Chong was also very nervous. Du Xiaoba was his son. Elder Jialo Yi and Elder Jialo Yuantu were watching from afar. If it was someone else who used the blood essence of the golden-winged Great Peng clan to establish their foundation, they would definitely intervene and even exterminate the entire clan. The things of the golden-winged Great Peng clan were not to be touched by anyone. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu was here, so they turned a blind eye. There are quite a few good seedlings among these children. Elder Jialo Yuantu looked at the children who were clenching their teeth and resisting inside the cauldron. Even with their vast experience and knowledge, they were also moved. The Du family has a few talented children. I'm afraid that they are comparable to the 9 great clans. Soon, this small place will shock the world. Elder Jialo Ye's eyes glowed with golden light. The talent of the Du family's children had also shocked him. Coupled with the current training, it wouldn't be long before these little brats would be able to rush out of Stone City and dominate the world. That night, the entire Stone City was sleepless. The roars of beasts shook the heavens and the rays of light were dazzling, illuminating the entire Stone City as if it was daytime. In the darkness before dawn, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and looked at Du Xiaoba who had calmed down inside the cauldron. Du Xiaofu's body was already enveloped in purple electric arcs, and the surroundings were bursting with golden light. There seemed to be a huge shadow of the golden-winged Great Peng that was about to spread its wings and fly out. Only then did Du Xiaofu feel completely relieved. You can rest assured, this brat has succeeded. Du Xiaofu patted Du Chong's shoulder, knowing that he had been worried about his son. Du Chong was relieved. He knew that his son had obtained the strongest blood essence of the golden-winged Great Peng clan. That pressure made him feel like crawling. If it wasn't for the existence of the thunder martial vein in his body, he wouldn't have been able to resist at all. Thank you. Du Chong looked at Du Xiaofu and was very grateful. We are brothers, we are a family. This brat is also my nephew. Du Xiaofu smiled as if it was nothing. The miserable screams in the back of the mountain gradually subsided before dawn. In the entire Stone City, all the talented and suitable juniors had successfully entered the foundation establishment stage under the protection of the many top-notch experts around them. Success, they have all succeeded. Many elders in the surroundings were moved to tears. The desolate country's old kings and their juniors were also in the front. They were all extremely excited as they stood on the side. Greetings Grandpa Xie, greetings old kings. Du Xiaofu tidied up and went to greet the old kings. Especially the North Vanquishing King. In Du Xiaofu's heart, he had always been a close relative. It won't be long before my desolate country soars into the sky. The North Vanquishing King, the South Vanquishing King, and the East Vanquishing King were all excited and happy. Beside the North Vanquishing King, Xia Fei's beautiful figure was graceful. Her aura was like an orchid as she stood there quietly, revealing a boneless charm. Looking at the purple-robed youth in front of her, Xia Fei didn't say anything. She only smiled faintly. As she looked around, her beautiful eyes were filled with ripples. Suddenly, in the darkest night before dawn, a blood-red light seeped out from the heavens and earth. A terrifying blood-evil chi filled the entire back of the mountain. It has become stronger again. The speed of the breakthrough is terrifying. Everyone looked up and looked at the source of the blood-red light. Many experts secretly exclaimed. That frightening bloody aura caused many of the experts present to tremble. The blood-red light slowly faded. In the blood-evil chi that filled the sky, a graceful figure appeared. Her bright red silk dress dragged on the ground. A few bright red hair ribbons wrapped around her beautiful black hair, outlining her beautiful figure. She was extremely seductive. Third young master. Her voice was soft and seductive. She smiled faintly. She was as elegant and clear as a budding lotus flower, but there was a hidden charm. She was a phantom. At this moment, Phantom's aura was that of a nirvana demon venerable. During this period of time, the desolate country's world society army had even killed domain realm experts and countless venerable realm cultivators. The number of casualties in the army was more than hundreds of millions. All the blood evil chi and remnant souls were absorbed by her. Have you come out of seclusion? Du Xiaofu looked at Phantom. At this moment, his expression suddenly became serious. The blood evil vines have penetrated into the evil spirits. However, Hun Xia and Shou Sha are most likely dead. I hope that third young master can avenge them. Phantom spoke. The blood evil chi on her body fluctuated. During this period of time, she had been absorbing all the nourishment to break through. She hoped that she could avenge Hun Xia and Shou Sha. Hun Xia and Shou Sha had died to cover her escape. If Hun Xia and Shou Sha had not sacrificed their lives to cover her escape, she would not have had much of a chance to escape the last time. If they are most likely dead, there will be 10 times more people who will die with them. Du Xiaofu spoke. When he finished speaking, he looked up into the sky. The soles of his feet shone with golden light as he rose from the ground. His purple robe fluttered. In an instant, his entire body was covered with golden light as he stepped into the sky. At this moment, mysterious lightning runes started to flash out from the purple-robed figure's body and covered her entire body. A magnificent and desolate aura suddenly filled the air. Boom! When this magnificent and desolate aura gushed out, it made people feel as if they were facing an irresistible sovereign. An overbearing murderous aura rippled through the sky. An aura that made people's souls palpitate caused all the experts present to be fearful. At this moment, in the back mountain of the Du family, the lightning martial veins in the Du family's disciples went out of control and covered their entire bodies. Bright purple lightning surged out from their eyes and a terrifying aura swept out. What kind of past does the Du family have? The entire family is like this. They are definitely not ordinary. At this moment, the fourth elder Jialo Yi and the fifth elder Jialo Yuantu's faces changed when they felt the lightning martial veins in the Du family's bodies. With their eyesight, they were almost certain that the Du family was definitely not simple. Thinking about Du Xiaofu's Nirvana Grand Sovereign and all kinds of freaks, this was definitely not something that a small family could do. The Du family must have a shocking secret. The fifth elder Jialo Yuantu and the fourth elder Jialo Yi looked at each other and their faces changed. Rumble, at the same time, in the night sky before dawn, thunderclouds began to gather, and the rumbling of thunder could be heard. Suddenly, purple lightning filled the void, rising from the Du family and shooting out from the imperial palace, illuminating the entire vast stone city. What's wrong? What's happening now? In the stone city, countless people looked up and saw the sky full of purple lightning surging out. It was as if doomsday had arrived, causing people to tremble in fear. Under that vast supreme aura, all the living beings in the city knelt down. It's the Rock Emperor. Someone forced himself to look up and saw a purple-robed figure standing in the middle of the purple lightning, looking disdainfully in all directions. In the sky full of purple lightning, Du Xiaofu soared into the sky. In the magnificent and desolate aura, there was an unparalleled tyrannical aura. Stepping on a golden dragon, lightning flashed in the eyes of his resolute and determined face. A terrifying aura gathered, containing a great majesty. That was a supreme emperor's aura, revealing the supreme of heaven and earth. This pressure is too strong, I can't resist it. Under this terrifying pressure, even the super experts in the back mountain of the Du family found it difficult to resist and knelt down. Roar! Suddenly, from the desolate country's imperial palace, a dragon's roar shook the sky and a golden light rose up. Chapter 1449. It was a sword named Dominating Shadow. It was the barren country's golden dragon imperial seal, and also Du Xiaofu's natal seal. The royal one received the mandate of the heavens, and their imperial authority was bestowed by the heavens. They inherited the destiny of the country, and received the blessing of the heavens and earth. They were blessed by the might of the heavens. At this moment, the dominating shadow flew out with the shadow of a golden dragon. The golden light was like a rising sun, emitting a mysterious and ancient aura. It affected the heavens and the earth, and its pressure spread across the entire stone city. The golden dragon shadow coiled in the sky and resonated with the heavens and earth, forming a powerful force that shook the entire stone city. Finally, it connected with the dazzling purple thunder in the sky. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire sky rumbled and trembled. An endless amount of pressure spread across the sky, forming a strange phenomenon. Starting from the stone city, the strange phenomenon spread across the dark forest, the 8,000-li-long river, and the entire Middle State. At this moment, the rivers boiled, the mountains shook, the ground cracked, and the tides in the sea surged. Then, under the countless shocked gazes of the stone city, a dazzling golden dragon shadow twisted the space and circled around Du Xiaofu. Its entire body was filled with an ancient and terrifying aura. It was a young man in a purple robe. The golden dragon circled around him like a saint, and the heavens were everywhere. The golden dragon shone brightly and contained a mysterious power. An endless amount of fate merged with the heavens and earth, resonating with the heavens and earth. It swept across the land with an earth-shattering force. At this moment, all living beings were trembling. Countless people's faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. The purifying evil alliance attacked my barren country and killed my disciples. On the 8th day of the 8th month, the great Luan sect will pay with blood. Du Xiaofu spoke and connected with the golden dragon shadow. The ferocious dragon head spoke in unison. The dragon's roar was like thunder, and it shook the 9 heavens. The terrifying sound waves shook the heavens and earth. Along with the sound waves, a mysterious force spread from the heavens and earth. The terrifying power caused everyone to tremble. This was the emperor's order and the dragon's words. It caused a strange phenomenon in the stone city and allowed the heavens to descend. Chi, before dawn, in the central state, there was an ancient sect that had been passed down for a long time and a huge sect. An old figure appeared in the sky, his eyes releasing a bright light in the dark night. The central state is about to change. The ancient voice reverberated above the ancient heaven sect before disappearing into the night sky. Within the dark forest, a dragon's roar reverberated. He's back. On a mountain peak stood many powerful youths. They were the general of Tianwu Academy, Gu Xinyan, and the others. Above the stone city, strange phenomena occurred. Dragon roars shook the heavens and earth. The Rock Emperor is enraged. He's going to settle the score. Stone City was in an uproar. Just as everyone was waiting for the Rock Emperor's response to his return, the results finally came. The Rock Emperor was enraged and wanted the evil purifying alliance to pay with their blood. He hasn't changed. He's still that demon king. The Emperor ordered Long Yen. He is furious to the extreme. At the back mountain of the Du family, all the experts were dumbfounded. During the day, they had thought that Du Xiaofu was a little abnormal. Only now did everyone realize that the Demon King had been suppressing himself during the day and had only completely erupted at this moment. This anger shook the mountains and rivers and caused the heavens and earth to change color. On the 8th day of the 8th month, the great Luan sect would pay with their blood. The Demon King was clearly going to kill his way to the Great Luan sect. The enormous golden dragon's shadow seemed to cover the sky. The pressure it exuded was enough to destroy everything. However, the purple lightning that filled the sky soon dissipated. In the air, purple-gold lightning surged from the eyes of the purple-robed youth. He landed on the ground and looked at Li Shui. I have some news. Moon Shadow Hall, help me send it to the Shan Prefecture in Tianhuang Continent as soon as possible. Don't delay. Du Xiaofu handed a few jade slips to Li Shui. Arrange it immediately. Li Shui nodded and her figure suddenly disappeared in the morning light that was gradually getting brighter. As Li Shui disappeared, dozens of voice transmission jade slips appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. He formed a hand seal and the dozens of voice transmission jade slips floated in front of him. On the 8th day of the 8th month, the situation in the Middle Continent will change. The Great Luan sect will be bathed in blood. Don't be late. Du Xiaofu's hand seals changed and the dozens of voice transmission jade slips cracked before turning into powder and drifting down. Seeing this, everyone's eyes moved. Looking at Du Xiaofu's movements, it was not difficult for them to know that Du Xiaofu was notifying the various forces to help. I'm afraid the Great Will sect is doomed. Only the Guqin demon and his mount knew that Du Xiaofu was notifying those terrifying fellows. If those terrifying fellows appeared in the Middle Continent at the same time, the entire Middle Continent would change completely. Third brother, do we need to make any preparations? Du Yunlong stepped forward. Lightning flashed in his eyes and his aura was sharp and murderous. No need to make any preparations. Du Xiaofu faintly smiled and strode toward the 18 celestial guards. He stood in front of Yi Piaoling and Qingu Yu and looked at Jiang Yingfeng, Yang Yizhi, Mu Ruobai, and the other newcomers. The newcomers are all brothers who have gone through fire and water together, said Yi Piaoling. His figure was slender and his eyes were piercingly sharp. His black robe fluttered in the morning breeze. Greetings, President. Mu Ruobai and the others recovered from their shock. That pressure just now made them realize how strong this young president was. No need for formalities. Du Xiaofu waved his purple robe with a majestic aura. He looked at the 18 celestial guards in front of him and his eyes were suffused with a golden brilliance. He seemed to be in deep thought. Then he asked Mu Ruobai and the others, do you want to strengthen your physical bodies? If you can't bear it, then forget it. Hearing this, Mu Ruobai and the others were pleasantly surprised. They all knew that the first brother, second brother, and third brother had their physical bodies strengthened by the president. That was why their physical bodies were so terrifying. Especially the second brother's body, which was even more ferocious than ferocious beasts. There's nothing that we can't bear. We can bear anything. Qian Ling said. They were all people who had been through life and death situations. Ordinary pain was nothing to them. All right, come with me. Du Xiaofu nodded and turned to Zhen Qingchun, Master Apothecary, Yi Wuming, and Du Yunlong. Brother Qingchun, Master Apothecary, second brother, I need to go into seclusion for a few days. Go, we'll be outside. Zhen Qingchun nodded. Anyway, with Du Xiaoqing and Du Xiaoyao around, no one would dare to invade the desolate country. Moreover, the Great Will sect and Spirit Sky Valley were probably uneasy now. They wouldn't be in the mood to attack the desolate country's world assembly. A moment later, Du Xiaofu brought the 18 heavenly generals into the Du family's secret room. However, accompanying him were the silver-winged demonic condor, blue-flame scarlet leopard, subduing tiger mastiff, golden python, and many other peak demonic beasts of the heavenly beast hall. The mysterious flood dragon king, flame carp king, ice python king, and stone turtle king were all present. Roar, in front of the incomparably huge heavenly beast hall, 10,000 beasts roared in the vast plaza. A terrifying aura seemed to have passed through time and space. What is this place? The silver-winged demonic condor, subduing tiger mastiff, Mysterious Flood Dragon King, and Stone Turtle King were all trembling in fear in front of this colossus. Go, you'll have your own opportunities. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and disappeared. Boom! Within the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu formed a hand seal and a 5-colored cauldron immediately condensed. A scorching aura surged, causing Qi Guiyu, Mu Ruobai, and the others' minds to ripple. Protective pill, it can protect your internal organs. Who wants to go first? Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and a pill floated before him. I'll go first. Yang Yiji went up and consumed the pill. He jumped into the cauldron without any hesitation. The moment he entered the cauldron, his clothes were reduced to ashes under the high temperature. The flames burned his body and his hairs stood on end. Not only did his skin shrivel up due to the intense pain, even the depths of his soul suddenly felt scorching pain. Arg, even though he was unyielding and never frowned in a life and death situation, he could not help but cry out miserably at this moment. While Du Xiaofu was in seclusion, the entire Central Plains was in an uproar like never before. On the 8th day of the 8th month, the Great Luan sect would pay with blood. This news spread to every corner of the Central Plains like a storm. The Demon King Du Xiaofu is back. He's going to deal with the Evil Purifying Alliance and the Great Luan sect. That Demon King is really powerful. The Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court have been searching for him for so many years without finding him. Now that he's back, he's going to deal with the Great Luan sect. The Great Luan sect is a colossus. Even the Ancient Heaven sect doesn't dare to say they'll deal with them. That Demon King Du Xiaofu might be extraordinary, but that's only among the younger generation. Does he have the strength to deal with an ancient sect like the Great Luan sect? Something big has happened among the younger generation. The Great Luan sect has announced to the world that their holy son Dongli Chihuang has achieved nirvana. Nirvana? What's that? Nirvana. That's an existence that surpasses everyone. It's an existence that surpasses the heavens chosen. It's the sovereign of all living beings. In the entire Kyushu, no one has ever been able to achieve nirvana. It's so powerful and terrifying. Dongli Chihuang has actually reached such a height. I'm afraid he'll really become the #1 person among his generation in the Central Plains. The Central Plains was in an uproar. As the news of the Demon King Du Xiaofu's return spread, the news of Dongli Chihuang's nirvana also spread. Countless forces in the Central Plains were shocked. The Heavenly Snake sect was a mountain range that stretched as far as the eye could see. From time to time, a large number of pythons would appear. It was rumored that the Heavenly Snake sect's old ancestor had obtained the Snake clan's divine ability and established the Heavenly Snake sect, becoming one of the Central Plains overlords. Supreme Nirvana. The Eastern departing Scarlet Phoenix is forcing us to make our final choice. In the ancient hall of the Sky Snake sect, an old man in his 50s had an extraordinary temperament. He had a gloomy expression as he murmured, "Fine. The hatred of my son's death is irreconcilable. That brat Du Xiaofu has returned. He's just relying on the ancient heaven sect. This time, we'll settle this once and for all. I didn't expect that brat Du Xiaofu to return. Didn't that old bastard Shenguang say that he's dead for sure?" Chapter 1450. In the Spirit Heaven Valley, a majestic old man said with a gloomy face and a cold glint in his eyes, "But this is also good. At least the item of Tianwu Academy has not fallen into the hands of others." Elder Ba Wu, that Du Xiaofu said that he wants to deal with the Evil Purifying Alliance and will go to the Great Luan sect on the 8th of the 8th month. "What should we do?" asked an old man who looked like he was in his 50s. I didn't expect that after the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix had reincarnated, it really did advance a step further. It's the nirvana of a supreme being. It's letting the Sky Snake sect in our Spirit Heaven Valley make the final decision. Ba Wu's face was gloomy. He knew what nirvana represented. He said to the old man beside him, whether it is for the item of Tianwu Academy or for the revenge of our spirit heaven valley, we cannot let that Du Xiaofu go. The seniors of the valley have already discussed and replied to Dongli Qi Huang. This time, we cannot let that brat Du Xiaofu go. Our spirit heaven valley will do our best to help. You're back. It seems that the devil religion is only in name. They didn't even destroy you. In front of the courtyard, the eastern mythical scarlet phoenix stood there quietly. There was an indescribable charm about her. She exuded the aura of a supreme being. Her eyes were dazzling as if there were 7 colored thunderbolts flickering in them. She said, "The 8th day of the 8th month, 3 more months." Brother-in-law. Qing Chao hurried over and landed beside Dongli Qi Huang in a few flashes. He looked at Dongli Qi Huang and said with a smile, "Brother-in-law, I just received news from the Divine Light Court. Elder sister will be coming to the Great Luan sect soon. Xingnan is finally going to show herself." Hearing this, Dongli Qi Huang's body shone with a hazy light. His scarlet robe and golden hair fluttered. The news says that elder sister will be coming to the Great Luan sect in the 8th month. Qing Chao looked at Dongli Qi Huang excitedly. With big sister's arrival, he would be able to continue his relationship with Dongli Qi Huang. With such a stable relationship, his position as the sect leader of the Great Luan sect would be as stable as Mount Tai. Ever since he was young, Qing Chao had always felt that he would soar into the sky sooner or later. Now that he was the leader of the Great Will sect, he had already proven that he was no ordinary person. August, huh? Dongli Qi Huang's eyes were also filled with anticipation. Then, he sneered and said, "August 8th. I'll let that brat live for another 3 months. At that time, I'll make him disappear from this world completely in front of Zhongzhou and Xingnan. He'll become my stepping stone." On the 8th day of the 8th month, the Great Luan sect would pay with blood. Great Will sect's Dongli Qi Huang, a nirvana paragon, surpassing heaven's chosen, a peerless talent. These 2 pieces of news spread like wildfire through central continent. Swish, a few days later, the door of the Du family's secret chamber opened. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared. His face was rosy and his expression was calm. As soon as he walked out of the secret chamber, Du Xiaofu saw Ouyang Xuan. Looking at the tomboy who was becoming more and more troublesome, Du Xiaofu was about to speak. However, Ouyang Xuan rolled her eyes and said, "Zhu Shui of the mysterious talisman sect is here to see you." As soon as she finished speaking, Ouyang Xuan turned around and left. Did I offend that tomboy? Du Xiaofu frowned. He was puzzled. Looking at that tomboy's expression, it seemed like he owed her a saint weapon. Greetings, Rock Emperor. After a while, in the desolate country's palace, Zhu Shui became even more beautiful. Her eyebrows were curved and her face was as white as jade. She looked at the purple-robed young man in front of her and smiled. Her bright eyes were filled with joy. "You can still call me like you used to." Du Xiaofu smiled. He then looked at Guoming, who was behind Zhu Shui, who was staring at him. He smiled and asked, "Brother Guoming, don't you recognize me?" "I'll recognize you even if you turn into ashes." Guoming didn't bother with pleasantries. He curled his lips and sighed. He said to Du Xiaofu, "I want to know what level your cultivation has reached after all these years. However, I can't tell." Everyone, take a seat." Du Xiaofu smiled. At this moment, there were a few experts from the mysterious talisman sect following Zhu Shui and Guoming. Du Xiaofu glanced at the young man beside Zhu Shui. Du Xiaofu knew this young man. He had interacted with him in the Savage Beast Mountain Range. It was Chen Yan. However, when he glanced at Chen Yan, Du Xiaofu's eyes slightly moved. Chen Yan seemed to be different from before. His aura was very powerful. Du Xiaofu felt a sense of déjà vu from him. This time, I'm here mainly to find out how confident the desolate country will be against the evil purifying alliance on the 8th day of the 8th lunar month. Also, the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix has already reached the Nirvana stage. Zhu Shui said directly. This was what the experts of the Profound Talisman sect wanted to know the most. Dongli Qihuang has achieved Nirvana. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes slightly twitched. He was really surprised. It's just a lesser sovereign's Nirvana. It's nothing. Someone said with disdain. He was very arrogant. He swaggered into the palace with a handsome face. He was Du Xiaoyao. Following behind him were Yi Zijin, Du Xiaoqing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman and others. Hearing that, the gazes of the people from the Profound Talisman sect all landed on Du Xiaoyao. The people from the Profound Talisman sect were not unfamiliar with Du Xiaoyao, and they were all secretly speechless. Miss Zhu Shui, this matter involves a lot of things. I will remember the kindness the mysterious Talisman sect has shown me over the years. I will definitely repay you in the future. However, I don't have to accompany you this time. I don't know how confident I am, but a debt of blood must be paid with blood. Du Xiaofu said. Du Xiaofu knew that the mysterious Talisman sect had helped him over the years. It must be this beautiful girl who had been helping him all this time. He was very grateful. However, Du Xiaofu didn't know how confident he was in dealing with the evil purifying alliance this time. Du Xiaofu wasn't an arrogant person. He didn't think that he had the ability to deal with the Great Luan sect just because he had achieved Nirvana. After all, an ancient sect like the Great Luan sect had a deep foundation. It wasn't easy to defeat them in one fell swoop. However, Du Xiaofu knew that he wasn't the same as before. No matter how deep the foundation of the Great Luan sect was, it was still a world away from the golden-winged Great Rock clan. Du Xiaofu never thought of relying on the golden-winged Great Rock clan. However, there were some forces that could be borrowed. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. As for Dongli Qihuang, Du Xiaofu didn't care about the nirvana of a lesser sovereign. Even if it was the same nirvana of a greater sovereign, Du Xiaofu wouldn't be affected. This time, he didn't have to involve the mysterious Talisman sect. Du Xiaofu knew that the mysterious Talisman sect had been helping the desolate nation's world assembly all these years because of Zhu Shui's insistence. He didn't have any relationship with the other members of the mysterious Talisman sect. In order to deal with the evil purifying alliance, the Profound Talisman sect had sent Zhu Shui to ask about it. It wasn't difficult for Du Xiaofu to know that the Profound Talisman sect was worried about him. If he asked the Profound Talisman sect for help, Zhu Shui would definitely be under great pressure. Chapter 1451. No matter how confident you are, the Profound Talisman sect will definitely help you. I just want to say that although the Immeasurable sect, the Huijian sect, the Xiandu Gate, and the Profound Underworld sect have already left the Evil Purifying Alliance, the Great Luan sect, the Spirit Sky Valley, and the Sky Snake sect all have a huge foundation. You have to be prepared, Zhu Shui said. Hearing Zhu Shui's words, the elders of the Profound Talisman sect seemed to want to say something but stopped. However, they did not say anything in the end. After all, they were still in the desolate country's imperial palace. I will be careful. Du Xiaofu had never underestimated the foundation of the Great Luan sect, the Sky Snake sect, and the Spirit Sky Valley. He then said to Zhu Shui, I will be going on a long trip during this period of time. I'm afraid I won't be able to accompany you in the desolate country. However, you can go anywhere in the desolate country, including here. It's okay. We can meet again in the future. Zhu Shui smiled faintly. She was extremely beautiful. Brother, are you going on a long trip? I want to go too. Du Xiaoqing was immediately interested. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. Her smile was like the epiphyllum of the world, carrying a kind of holy beauty. I'll go too. Ouyang Shuang spoke after Du Shaoqing. Her big eyes and beautiful eyes were serious. She did not have the intention to discuss with Du Xiaofu. She had already made her decision. At dusk, the sunset enveloped the stone city and shone on the Du family. Together with the sunlight outside the Du family, the light was dazzling like a divine radiance. Third brother, it will be the 8th of the 8th month in 3 months. Is it appropriate to go on a long trip now? Outside the Du family courtyard, Du Yunlong was worried. He said to Du Xiaofu, the Great Luan sect, the Divine Light Court, and the Devil religion will not be quiet when they know that you are back. Second brother, you don't have to worry. I know what I'm doing. There are some places that I have to go personally. Otherwise, I'm afraid that some people will really think that the World Assembly of the Desolate Country is a place that anyone can target. Du Xiaofu said, reassuring second brother Du Yunlong and the others not to worry. He then turned to Zhen Qingchen, Master Apothecary Yi Wuming, Eagle King and the others and said, Brother Qingchen, I'll leave Stone Castle in your hands. Go ahead. I also need to refine some things in the next few months. Zhen Qingchen looked at the 4th elder and the 5th elder beside Du Xiaofu. He wasn't worried about Du Xiaofu at all. Boom! Du Xiaofu waved his hand and sent out 4 dazzling streams of light. Following a series of strange hissing noises, the noises seemed to be echoing in everyone's heads, enough to make their souls tremble. Even the space around them began to tremble. All of a sudden, 4 enormous creatures descended, accompanied by 4 extremely terrifying auras. The 4 colossal creatures that appeared in the sky above the Du family were all thousands of feet long and covered in dazzling runes. Upon closer inspection, they were 4 gigantic skeletons that seemed to be alive. All of them had an ancient aura. Heavens, those are the complete skeletons of the ancient viper, the 3-headed sea dragon snake, the black water mystical snake and the ancient hook snake. Looking at the 4 colossal creatures in the sky, Master Apothecary Yi Wuming's eyes fluctuated violently. What a terrifying aura! Many experts of the Du family were shocked. The ancient viper, the 3-headed sea dragon snake, the black water mystical snake and the ancient hook snake were the 4 peak existences of the snake clan. The complete skeletons of the ancient viper were extremely terrifying. The 4 skeletons hovered in the sky mysteriously. Their auras were very powerful. The skeletons were wrapped in dazzling runes and their eyes were shining with a terrifying and empty light. These 4 skeletons were obtained by Du Xiaofu in the Heavenly Beast Hall's plaza. The 4 skeletons were at least at the Beast Region realm when they were alive. Even though they were only skeletons now, after being refined by Spirit Sovereign Xingqiu, their might was easy to imagine. The Violent Bear King, Ghost Chariot and the others weren't a match for these 4 skeletons. Their strength was comparable to peak beast sovereigns, only below the beast region. Behind the 4 skeletons was a carriage that was dozens of feet long. It was densely covered in runes and inscribed with many formations. There was even the energy of a ferocious beast inscribed on it. This carriage was refined by Du Xiaofu in the ancient desolate space a few days ago. He thought about how the 5th elder, Jialo Kaling, and the others had flying treasures when they traveled. Even Huang Ling, and the others had powerful demonic beast carriages when they traveled. Although Du Xiaofu didn't lack mounts, mounts consumed a lot of energy. If it was too long, it would be quite disadvantageous. Hence, Du Xiaofu decided to refine a carriage. He thought that it would be suitable to have 4 skeletal puppets. This thing is really extraordinary, but it's a little too ostentatious. 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu looked at the carriage pulled by the 4 skeletons in the air. Naturally, he could tell that although the carriage looked simple, it wasn't ordinary at all. The carriage was clearly inscribed with powerful formations. Those below the martial domain realm couldn't even think about destroying the carriage. The 4 huge skeletons in front were also very eye-catching. It's fine to be a little ostentatious. This time, we might as well be a little more ostentatious, said Du Xiaofu. A dozen figures boarded the carriage. Then, the 4 skeletons roared and left. Wherever they passed, the wind and clouds surged. Within the stone city, countless people raised their heads and looked at each other in shock. This is too ostentatious. The devil religion, Great Will sect, Divine Light Court, and others will probably take action. Master Apothecary Wu Ming was worried. After all, that guy had many enemies in the central province. Don't worry. Those who dare to do such a thing are more like courting death. Zhen Qingchun looked at the sky, not worried at all. Only he knew that the 4th elder and 5th elder of the golden-winged Great Ping Bird clan were sitting on the carriage. Whoever dared to provoke the carriage was no different from courting death. The mysterious underworld sect, one of the 9 great forces of the central province, had an ancient inheritance and foundation. It had always been a colossus in the central province, and was also a cultivation holy land in the hearts of countless cultivators. Countless people in the central province racked their brains to join the mysterious underworld sect. It was rumored that there were even people from the 8 provinces outside the central province who wanted to join the mysterious underworld sect. As one of the 9 great forces of the central province, the mysterious underworld sect had a vast territory and many small and medium-sized forces and empires. However, the foundation of the mysterious underworld sect was above the underworld lake. The central province's long river was 8,000 miles wide, but the underworld lake was countless rivers in the central province. Although it was called the underworld lake, it was more or less the same as the sea. The underworld lake was an extremely unique existence in the central province. It was rumored that the entire underworld lake was filled with the aura of the underworld. There was an ancient legend that the underworld lake was related to an ancient supreme expert. The founding ancestor of the mysterious underworld sect had comprehended the way under the underworld lake and became a supreme expert in one fell swoop. He stunned Kyushu and eventually founded the mysterious underworld sect, making it one of the 9 great forces of the central province. The closer one got to the center of the underworld lake, the stronger the aura of the underworld. However, the energy of heaven and earth gathered there and became a cultivation treasure land. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.